What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands, new habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands. New habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
We are live. We are live. Good morning. Good morning. Bună dimineața. Good morning to everybody online. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, all of you, for making the effort to join us today. Excuse me with my back to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 9th, I can't believe it's the 9th edition of the People Empowering Business Forum. This is your event, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great opportunity to ask lots of questions, and we have a formidable panel. I can feel the wisdom of the panel behind me smacking me across the back of the head like my mother used to when I said naughty words. That did stop, by the way, when I did say to her mother, I'm 23, it's about time you stopped. But thank you for our wonderful first panel behind us. You can ask challenging questions, you can even ask controversial questions if you like, but really, as I said, it's your opportunity to dig deep into this. Unless, of course, your boss is on the stage and you may want to ask a more milder question, otherwise it may be a funny way to resign, perhaps, but there you go. Okay, People Empowering Business Forum 2023. We talk at these events about the year that's passed, and there's always the challenges, and of course right now we've still got the ongoing horrific situation with our neighbours, and we've got the recent events going on, we've got the business climate, the economy, and all of these things, US elections happening next year, all of these things which have an impact on us. So I think the result is nothing changes. There's always something to challenge us, and I think living in Romania for 13 years, I've always appreciated the resilience of this country that continues to strive forward. So I would say congratulations to everybody for navigating our way through everything. As I said, we talk about all the changes, and we're going to subject, I'm going to read a little bit of this, the continuous and over-tiring negotiations on hybrid and remote working styles, labour legislation updates, the shifts in the working patterns, concepts, that change fatigue, quiet resignation, detachment, attrition, retention, DEI, ESG, all of those things that are going on in our heads. And I always say everything is a bit like a trend, and we've seen that over the last few years. There's been things happen, and then very quickly, I mentioned the situation with our neighbours. There is a time when it starts to dilute in terms of people's focus on these things, and I think it's the same, a lot of it in industry. I was actually taking some visitors from my family they visited Romania for the first ever time, and we drove up the Transfăgărășan, which was wonderful, not for the person in the back seat, but it was wonderful for me driving it, and it was quite worrying in terms of seeing the bears that are now coming out onto the highway. So if you do have any friends boasting about feeding the bears on the Transfăgărășan, please give them a slap around the head like my mother used to do, because we saw the first bear, and my niece was screaming, said, there's a bear, there's a bear. And I must admit, it was an incredible sight for me to see that. And then another 10 minutes later, there's another bear. We saw 9 bears within about 50 minutes drive. By the time we got to the 7th or 8th bear, the reaction was like, oh, there's another bear. Oh, look, there's another bear. And it kind of made me think that really happens in our business lives. So the 2 discussion panels we've got are really going to be sort of digging deep on these things. But before we get there, I would like to thank our partners for this event, with which these things are not possible. Diamond partner is Vipro. Thank you very much. If you're from Vipro or from any of these companies, you could go a little, hey, as I read. Our platinum partners, I wish I'd never said that. Platinum partners, NXP Semiconductors. That was pathetic. Gold partners, Majorel Romania. You see, I don't know if anybody's ever been to an English pantomime at Christmas. This is becoming Noah ACCA, SCC, Lions Head, First Bank, Romgas, TELUS International, and Teleperformance. I should get a couple of cheers from behind me for that one. Our partners are Vastint, Rompetrol, Lovering and Partners Business Performance Consultants. You notice I said that with a slightly louder voice. Our supporting institutions, Henro, if that's correct, Energy Producers Association, Invest Romania, Confederația Patronală, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Concordia, sorry I missed that bit, and the British Romanian Chamber of Commerce, I can say that. Our media partners, Automotive Today, Outsourcing Today, Financial Intelligence, Economistul, România Durabilă, I know, I'm English, and Club Economic, and Ziarul Bursa. So there you go. I struggled my way through that. I wasn't supposed to do that introductions, but Marilla forced me to do that. The agenda today, as I said, it's your opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to be encouraging everybody to participate. I'll be looking around. If you want to say anything, just put your hand in the air and I will find you. We're going to kick off with our first session, which is CEO Talks, transforming the formal leadership into authentic followership, and people at the center of ESG, which is a big, big subject at the moment. And then we're going to take a break. And then after the break, we do the second session, which is the new work perspective, work with a purpose, making the best of academic and corporate partnership, diversity, which is another big subject, equity and inclusion in the spotlight. So that's it. Are you ready? Okay, let me introduce I'll do it on here because it's a different order for what I got here. My old friend Antonio Pane, who's the Managing Director with Vastint Romania. Always check the job titles. Gina Cruceru, Group Human Resources Director for Rompetrol. Very warm welcome to you. Another old friend, Irina Butnaru, the Romania lead, country lead, General Manager, VPRO. Who but Tweaker in the coffee? Andreea Axeni, another friend, Chief Executive Officer for Romania Teleperformance. Corina Tiu, I love the Tiu. It's like Pui. I love to say that word as well. So, Vice President Operations for TELUS International, a warm welcome. And last but not least, Andreea Mihnea, the Chief People Officer for First Bank. Give them a little round of applause and welcome them, please, ladies and gentlemen. So we're gonna sort of start off in terms of this leadership, and there's the new phrase is followership, and it's really like how can we be a leader that's going to be very influential in the market. Irina, I'm going to come to you first, if I may, and just sort of really share with us. How do you do it? What's the advice for people in terms of, it's not just in terms of CEO leadership, it's middle management leadership and everything else. How can we have that influence that people will sort of follow our way and trust our way and all of these things? What is the secret for you?
I didn't want it to be the first. It feels like 8th of March here because it's mostly women. So I guess it's about what Simon Sinek was talking about too. It's that why. It's the purpose behind, and I guess it's explaining to the people and getting them along. Be there for them, understand that they have fears sometimes, understand them as humans. And I guess that is what works for us. And it's related to being also authentic as a leader, because sometimes we also have hard times to actually manage the change. But then if we are transparent and if we are open to get everyone along, I guess this works for me. Being authentic and at the same time making sure we are inclusive and we get everyone along. There's no definition probably. I know that in psychology and in social theories there is this dichotomy, there are leaders who are there with the function and they are formally placed there, and then we have informal leaders. And I guess being an informal leader, it's actually coming naturally, and people follow those informal leaders. And if you look at them, they are authentic, and I guess they are transparent, and they are like big brothers sometimes, or they are people who actually don't lead formally, but they lead with their soul, with the purpose, and they give a meaning to everything they do. So to put it simple, I think I have seen a lot of informal leaders who are rather practicing the leadership, yeah, and the fellowship. And when it comes with formal role as well, I guess it's also complete, yeah. But that's, I think, the perfect example, like informal leaders.
Okay, yeah, so you used the word authentic. Gina, if I could just come to you. You were looking at me there, go, oh, but no, not me. But just come to you and just picking up on that word authentic, because I mentioned middle managers as well, and for the other panelists as well. I want to sort of understand, sometimes people are getting promoted within an organisation, and I guess in theory, based on a little bit what you were saying there, Irina, maybe is that an easier path to inspirational or influential leadership, or coming in as an individual as well? That's not the question for you, but it's something I want the rest of the panel to think of. But in your experience, what is it that leaders, the words trust and everything else, is there a secret recipe, and is it something that can be a quick thing to do, or does it take time?
I like to answer most of the questions with something bigger than the question itself, and I would mention here the bigger game in which the entire leadership and ESG topics are linked, meaning the fact that we are all in the game of making this humanity work. So if we start from this big objective, then the entire concept of leadership, at least to my understanding, becomes broader. It includes formal leadership, but also individual leadership. And by individual leadership, I mean that at the end of the day, we can all be aware that in our daily jobs, in our lives, we can make individual decisions that impact others and, of course, ourselves. So the change here that I would see is the change in mentality. So when we are all aware that we can be leaders in formal position, but also we can be informal leaders, or even in position where apparently there is no leadership impact, in fact there is, from smaller decisions to bigger decisions. And of course, if you were referring to the middle management, may they have small team or bigger teams, they are in the position of having day-to-day decisions, and those decisions are actually supporting the entire architecture of the organization, and that's why they become very important decisions. Although, in principle, at first sight, you might think that only the C-level has the most important decision. Sometimes middle management has more important decisions to make, and or the burden is on the middle management. Now, when it comes also to leadership, I would also introduce the fact that in our world, as we have it now, it's very important to establish first the vision at any level, to communicate it to the people within your team, to make those who are not in formal position believe, and at the end of the day, to make them follow you by being authentic. What I mean by authenticity is the fact that we people, the animal in us, is very aware, consciously sometimes, but also unconsciously, we are very aware when somebody is not being authentic. And the decisions they communicate, they have to be back-proofed by their actions. So it's very, very important the moment you assume some decisions to walk that talk, because the leadership fellowship is an ongoing process. It's alive. It's like if you make a parallel to the social media, you cannot have 10,000 followers today and have them for life. You need to constantly work on that community that you have. And that's why I always like, or at least in the last last year, I like to make a parallel and use the term community for the organization I'm working in, because we also as HR people, but also the senior management, the entire senior management has to work for that community. It's no longer a story in which people follow you just for the formal role. You need to role model again until you actually win them, both mentally but also their hearts. And this is a difficult thing to do, because you have to be conscious, aware throughout all your decisions and also all your acts.
Okay, thank you. Andrea, I'm going to come to you because I know you'll have a strong opinion on this. But Gina sort of mentioned as well on there about middle managers and leaders, let's say. They do have I guess the middle managers are, I think you were saying they're caught in the middle of trusting the trust here, but also the trusting of the management team as well. So there's probably there's a bigger challenge there. Andrea, just touch on in terms of leadership, because I know your style, but please sort of touch a little bit, give us some advice on that. But just touch on, also on this middle man. I call it, when I'm doing leadership training, I spend a lot of time with middle managers, funny enough. I call it the Maradona syndrome. Everybody knows the footballer Maradona, I hope. One of the greatest footballers in the world, and then they made him a manager, and he was a big disaster. And I'm not saying we see that a lot, but I think that when somebody is promoted from within, they go into that middle management, and there's assumption and also a bit of a protective thing with themselves, being exposed to having to learn something is, well, hang on, I'm trying to create going from a friend to a boss here, and there's that little bit of challenge. So on the first question about yourself and the advice, but also touch on this middle manager dilemma, maybe, we don't know.
So, hi, Colin.
Hello.
So on the first point, I was thinking while the ladies were talking and thinking about your question, and I really like this current of fellowship. And I think that the secret is that if you want people to follow you, you need to exhibit behaviors that are worth following. In the sense that if you want people to behave in a certain way, you need to show what's the way. If you want them to be hardworking, you need to be hardworking. You cannot be a lazy person and expect your team to be hardworking. You cannot expect your team to come at 9 o'clock and then you come, easily at 10, right? So I think you need to do the things you're asking your team to do, or even more sometimes, and exhibit the behaviors that you're expecting them to follow. Follow the leader is not a joke. People do tend to follow the leader, and there is an element of mimicking. So if you watching the successful teams, they tend to mimic the behaviors of their leader. And it's sometimes, they are not even aware of it. They feel like it's something worth following and worth mimicking. And sadly, they tend to also mimic bad behaviors. So when there is a manager with bad behaviors, the whole team starts to behave in that way. So I think, and in this social media and virtual environment, becoming more aware, you're absolutely right in the sense that in the office, you lead with your face, with your smile, with having a coffee with people. I think in a virtual environment, you need to put in an extra effort. You need to really think about the things that you want to do, because you're losing some of your tools. You're losing the smile. You're losing the handshake. You're losing the having a coffee in a corner, right? So you need to make a conscious effort of making your behavior really visible. Really making a statement in some way or the other. And I think it's different from one company to the other. It really depends how many events there are, right? So it's really, really different.
Are you, sorry to interrupt, are you sort of saying, because what I'm hearing from you is that you have, and I know you well, you have this very collaborative way with people, but you also have this sense of authority there as well, if I may say. So, and how important is that? Because we're in the world of of giving. It's almost, and I know we all suffer, people coming for interviews or not bothering to turn up for the interview or whatever, and sitting in front of you and like, what's your work from home policy? And we're getting a little bit, come on here, I want you to be committed to this job that we're offering you. So is there a balance there that the style, the recommendation is to do what you say other people should do, which you illustrated very strongly, but to keep that sense of authority as well? How important is that?
I think you have to, if you are to deliver results.
Okay.
At the end of the day, your shareholders are expecting results, whether or not you make your people happy. Of course, they always say they want to, we want happy people. Of course, we want happy people, but at the end of the day, they want the price of the share. Ultimately, right? Yeah. So if you are to deliver results, you need to maintain your authority. And that is a very fine balance, how to say no and still keep the people happy.
Yeah.
And I haven't found a perfect recipe. It's, you always need, it's judging in the situation and in the context. But I think maintaining your behavior in a way that you can be proud of it, I think it's important, because at the end of the day, no matter your answer, even if the answer is no, even if you stick to your authority, if your behavior is respectful and it's something that people can look up to, they say, okay, the answer kind of, I don't like it. But I respect the argument, and I respect the behavior, and I respect the way it's been put. Yeah. And going back to your second question about middle management, we were talking the other day actually within Teleperformance, and we realized that there are these functions in the middle management that I've become aware that they are, I would call them custodians of the people well-being. They are the ones who are making the most critical decisions that are impacting the people well-being, the work-life balance. Stuff like, the whole discussion the other day came from approving vacations. As simple as that. Are we approving people vacations? Are we approving them when they want them? Not when we needed to reduce untaken vacation, right?
Yeah.
When finance says, no, you have too much untaken vacation, right? So that's an element. These guys are the ones who say yay or nay. And are they making the right balance between business and really understanding if the person really has a problem? And they can frustrate people with those small decisions.
Yeah. I think Gina illustrated they're trying to please those people, but also trying to please you as well at the same time, and it's quite a tough.
And some of the young ones are saying, okay, what's the recipe? There is no recipe. You need to judge, you need to apply your judgment, and you need to put yourself in the shoes of that person.
Okay. Thank you. Karina, I'll move over. Sorry with my back to some of you there. I'll put my back to you now just for a little while. I'll try and stand to the side. Karina, just on the same subject, but again, with this, because this middle manager thing is quite key, but we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, there has been a problem with attraction and retention in organizations. And I talked about trends, I talked about trends earlier on, ladies and gentlemen. I remember when I came to Romania, it was kind of the lunch, the meal voucher was kind of it. There was a couple of other things, and then we had the gym membership, and then we had other things. But now we've got to a stage, I think, where you have a potential employee sat in front of you, and it's kind of like, which gym? Because I don't like world class, or they're being very particular, because it's kind of like the bears on the Transfiguration. It's kind of, well, that's the norm. What else are you gonna give me? So how do we as leaders sort of create that desire when somebody goes home and says, right, this is the company I want to work for, and this is why? How important is that leadership perspective in that, the influence on that? What a question that was.
Good morning, everyone. So first of all, we have our own gym that solved the problem.
There you go. Well, I don't like the gym. The other gym has more stuff than yours.
I'm not going to the gym either.
No,
but
joking.
Don't quote me on that. So I would say definitely I agree with what the ladies just mentioned, and middle management, and I've been there many years back, but I've been there. I think middle management is the most important management in any company. Just because it's that buffer in between our team members that are actually delivering the results and the upper management. Now, what I say to answer your question, Colin, and this is my advice for every manager at every level, and has been part of my conversations and mentorship and coaching for at least the last 10 years, is you need to love your job. I know now the people in the room will look at me funny, and I know it sounds a bit zen, but I strongly believe that 50% of any manager job is you need to love the job, really love it. And I'm not saying you are 100% every day of your life, working life, you are going to like all the tasks that you need to do, you are going to like all the people that you interact with. No, definitely I'm not saying that. But if I'm waking up in the morning and I realize every morning, and this is the trick that works for me, I always say I work for the people, with people. And then I love my job. I go there and I try to do a very good job as much as possible. Then for me, 50% of the job it's done. So that's what I'm asking, and that's a reflection, I would say, not necessarily a question, that I'm laying on the table for every manager, especially the middle management. Do you like your job, or are you here for the work from home perks, for the gym, for the financial package? If these are the only factors or the only reasons why you are in a job, any job, it's a bit wrong. And they matter. Everything matters. The financial package, the gym, the perks, the benefits, the title. We are human, so let's be authentic and admit that everything matters. But the foundation should be that you are in for the people.
Okay.
It does the trick. It is food for thought for for a lot of managers that I talk to. And I've always say, go home, think about it. It's not about the company that you operate right now in. It's about your future, your career. You need to be, you need to like what you're doing on a daily basis, because we spend a lot of time in the work field, many hours per day, right? And sometimes I see people changing careers and coming back to me and saying, it's not for me. Okay, what would you like to do? And let's work together. Okay. I think that works in some cases.
It's a tough line, but I guess sometimes we always talk about parenting. Most of us. I was a grandfather for the second time, by the way, not so long ago. But some of us are grandparents, so just me, I think, in the room, and parents. And we talk about parenting, and we get to a certain age, and maybe we stop parenting so much because our children have grown up, but then they go into the workplace. And I guess the question is do they still, we don't use the word parenting, we say mentoring and leadership and everything else, but maybe there is a little bit of that. Andrea, Karina sort of talked there about do you love your job, and how difficult it is now in these days to love your job and be working hybrid? Is this challenge of detachment? Because I noticed a recent survey that showed the majority of leaders spend more time in the office, God bless you all, than the team. Now, to me, that says, do the leaders, would they actually prefer everybody to be in the team, be in the office? But how does that affect, if you're working hybrid, how can you have this sort of connection and love of a company if you're spending half of your time away and half the time? And how can leaders manage that? And what do leaders really want, I guess, would be the question.
Well, it's always whatever each leader in particular wants. Before going to this operationalization of how to, I would like to add another perspective to the questions that were asked before. And there are two. One is academic and the other one is from my observation, what works in leadership. I will start with my observation. So I think that as leaders, we need to stop trying to get outcomes by looking at the computer. We need to understand that outcomes come from influencing how we influence behaviors, consistent behaviors. So for that, it's okay, how do you love your job? It's about how you, as a leader, it's about how you understand yourself first, and then in order to influence the behaviors of others, how do you understand what drives them, what their beliefs are, who influences them, what are their networks, what do they believe in, what are their reactions, what do you observe about them. So it's a constant work of discovery and of research of yourself and of the others. And I think that's 90% of a leader's job. And so that's also about, if you love this, then you will do this, because it's very difficult. It's not about changing the others, it's about what you reflect onto the others. So do you love that? That depends on each person. The second thing that I have observed that leaders cannot do without is curiosity. And these days, more than ever, you need to be more flexible and you need to listen more, because things change more rapidly than before. So it's a bit counterintuitive that the more you flex, the better you lead. So it's like letting yourself, as a leader, be led by what's going on. And now I shift to the academic perspective, because it's linked. It's always good to have an anchor there. So sense making, so according to MIT, there are 4 capabilities that the leader should have. And one of them, probably the most important, is sense making. As a leader, you have perspective. So you need to be able to understand this very, very quick and translate this to the people. So unless you're connected to your environment, to competition, to macroeconomics, to everything, to your people, to your collaborators, you won't be able to make sense, and you won't be able to transfer that sense to your people. Then it's visioning. How do you transform what you want to do, where you want to lead the people? By storytelling, by what you create as a vision for them. Then it's relating. Yeah, you need to relate, constantly relate. And the last one is inventing. So how do you put all that into practice in ways they haven't been put into practice before? So that's the MIT perspective. And I'm bringing this because if you don't love doing this, you won't be able to love this. And very shortly about hybrid, it's not as difficult as it seems. And what I've seen working is, yeah, do you want all your people to come to work? Maybe, but then you need to change, because it's not about what you want. It's about how do you get the outcomes, what behaviors do you need to get those outcomes, and how do those people react, what motivates them, what interests them. So it's a little bit change of perspective, and we can, of course, develop on that later. Yeah.
And I guess it's quite, we do company surveys and everything else. Sometimes it's how we position the question. We don't always get the accurate answer. So I guess it's actually, as you said, listening to people as well. I'd be curious, anybody, in terms of, I think we say how leaders should be, but maybe from an employee perspective, what they think leaders need to do. I actually did a big leadership program recently, and that was the study that we did, is what employees want and what leaders need. And maybe I'll get time to share it with you. Antonio, I am going to bring you in here because we had a chat by the coffee machine and we were talking about how hard it is to say no. I think somebody, I forget who mentioned how difficult it is to say no. So I've got this question for you in terms of saying no, but also in terms of 2024, we've heard about, I think there's some strategy and some plans there, which I'm guessing are going to be the continuation. But based on what's been going on, do you see as a leader changing something for 2024? But answer the question about saying no as well at the start as well, please.
Thank you for the question. 2024 comes with a lot of experiences from the past. And I believe for the future, it's more and more important, the shared management. Why? Because when I started my experience, more or less more than 20 years ago, we didn't know anything about how the company is evolving. We had just our small corner and we had to do our job. In time, my experience evolved. I changed jobs, and since more than 15 years, I'm working for Vastin. I love my job, because I heard from my panel colleagues about this question, if everybody's asking themselves. Yes, I love my job. We build buildings. We build office buildings, residential and hotels. We have 2 fantastic projects in Bucharest, Timpuri Noi Square and Business Garden Bucharest, and of course all around Europe since more than 35 years. We are exposed to the experiences of our tenants. It's very interesting to discuss with the managers what they think, how they see the evolution of management and the new things that they are technology, artificial intelligence, work from home, and many other ESG, many other challenges that they are just coming now. We will be audited soon, also from this perspective, from ESG perspective. So there are many challenges that we are facing with, and I believe that starting from that point where we didn't know what's happening with the companies and how they are evolving, now we have to go to the other direction and start showing to the employees who we are, also from figures perspective, and where we are standing, and what the role they have, each of them, in the activity. After each board meeting today, we are sitting down with all the team and we are showing the main figures, where we are and where we are heading. It's very important also to relax them that we are a very strong company, because there are many developers and construction companies that they have issues. We don't, because we are careful in development since so many years. We made no mistakes from this perspective of business. In construction, you do a lot of mistakes, but we learn and we improve all the time, of course. But from business perspective, all the time we were careful not to take the wrong decisions. And these wrong decisions, not taking this wrong decision, was made due to the discussions and brainstorming with the team. So I believe that shared management is very important, because you see the change in your colleagues when they understand where we are, what are our worries, and that they are part of the success story, and not only what you are giving me, but also, oh, I have to give back also, because this is the way it should work. Shareholders, depending on the company, of course, they put pressure on having the maximum profit, or, for example, in our case, to leave something lasting after us. So not the maximizing profit, but also focusing on building the best quality of the projects to last in time, to create the canvas, as I name it, for our tenants. And work from home, it's a good concept, sounds good, but it raises a lot of issues. Performance of the companies, they start to go down. And that's why you need to reach a balance. And that's why you need to explain, to show the figures. Look, guys, due to the pandemic, due to the war, our businesses are going in a certain direction. We have to improve, because all our families are relying on the income from the companies. So I think it's all about common sense and balance and shared management.
It's interesting you say about, and I guess with hybrid working, we're all amongst it. Sometimes, depending on the industry, it's more challenging to do that, and then you have that danger of sort of social divide, where somebody's maybe brother or sister is enjoying a hybrid world and they're not, and maybe within organisations as well. I want to move on a little bit, and Gina, just to ask you, we didn't talk about saying no, but we'll come back. We'll
yes.
come. you just say no. I don't want to answer the question.
No.
Okay, there you go.
It's the first step.
So a little therapy session there with Antonio. So he's going to say no 10 times today, and he's going to be a new man. But just talking about next year, you know, and it's soon going to be upon us. Andrea and us, we were talking, because I think all business leaders and managers, we're all salespeople. So we have that year, and we can have a wonderful year in 2023. And we know the head office says, very well done, a great year. And then January the 1st comes and all of that disappears, and we've got that 10% growth. I think it's fair to say we're entering into a challenging 2024. How do you, how do you correlate that challenge with teams as well in terms of the HR and KPIs. So would we be in danger of passing that pressure onto teams by upping their KPIs, which can be demotivational? Or is there a little bit like Antonio said, we've got to do a little bit more of actually getting our teams involved, maybe not asking their thoughts on business decisions or management decisions, maybe asking for their advice on those decisions as well. How do you see in terms of 2024, in terms of the KPI, let's call it KPI, the KPI sort of model and how we can keep that productivity? I ask very long questions, don't I? I just realized that.
Yeah, but I follow this. So, we as an organization, for example, we are in the middle of transition to energy. So we are still modeling between the traditional oil and gas industry and the new energy. And part of our business is traditional one, and another part of the business is the new one. So we are exactly in the middle of transition. And of course, we are highly impacted by all the regulations, the ESG regulations, and not only. The main challenge for us at the moment is the labor market revolution, I would say. Being in the middle of this transition, we have many factors to take into account. And one of the most important factors is the desirability to join the traditional industry, and also our own challenge to bring new generations to work for the energy industry. And it's very important for us to make sure that at the end of the day, because we cover the entire value chain of the industry, we make sure that we have the right talent in place. And adding to this formula, the fact that we have all the 5 generations active on the labor market, we have them in the organization. And operating in 11 countries, 2 different continents, a lot of nationalities, there is a lot of diversity to manage. And in this context, it's very important for us also to make sure that we are performant at the end of the day. We bring shareholder value, but also we manage to somehow make this entire organization follow the direction in which the company wants to go. And of course, for some business areas, for example, decarbonization or ESG is more visible, and they are contributing more to it. But for other parts of the organization, let's say on the areas where the wave didn't reach yet, they are not that impacted. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everybody adheres to the same purpose, let's say organizational purpose. We still have the KPI system in place, and it's very important to have an objective tree, to cascade the KPIs, to make sure that people achieve their objectives and KPI. But it's even more important in the current hybrid work model to have the conversations once again, and put on top of that coaching and mentoring. When I say mentoring, it's not necessarily the coaching for performance or coaching for different aspects of growth. When I say mentoring, it's a tool that we quite underused, because at the end of the day, it doesn't cost too much. I know that this is something that finance likes to hear, because you use your existing human capital, your existing talent, those people who are really good in their field of expertise, and help the new generations. And this is a tool that we use throughout many programs in the organization. How do we make sure that we have people to, so for example, in our industry, it's very difficult to find young graduates, to still want to join this industry. And because of this, we started our programs even from high school, from 9th grade in Romania. And we started with dual employment, with curating some classes, with apprenticeship, mentoring, and so on. And we help them on a long-term investment, I would say. We help them and guide them at the end of the day to choose the right professions that we, of course, they like, and we would benefit afterwards when they will become potential candidates. And in this context, it's very important to make sure that people still know where we are heading, in order for them to understand what are those KPIs that management is imposing, and not feel them like pressure only, but to feel them that in the bigger scheme, they contribute also to their own growth. And my personal, I would say, vision on this is the fact that whenever we ask people to do something, to give them something in return. And this is somehow how our strategy of Together We Grow People was born, exactly in the sense that whenever you're involved in a new project, a new objective, there is a high opportunity for you there to grow. And we are constantly infusing our programs with the growth component, meaning that, for example, in a project that it might look just regular mentoring or traineeship or mentoring or any other development program in the organization, we introduce the component of growing personal skills, soft skills, and also growing as potential future leader, even for those who are far away from the time perspective from a formal leadership position. We help them to plant the seeds of leadership, of individual leadership from even 10, 20 years before. So maybe on the long run, they will choose that path. But yes, it's still difficult in the hybrid model to have these conversations, and sometimes people might want to skip these formal discussions or following up, but at the end of the day, hybrid model is just a tool, it's a car that you need a driver. And the main driver for the hybrid model, at least in my vision, is the managers, the middle managers, because they are the ones driving the teams at the end of the day.
A lot of emphasis on the middle managers. Irina, I weren't sure if you were sort of thinking, I'm going to get my KPIs over the next couple of months, but I guess your KPIs are going to be very different from KPIs, and we've talked about the development of people, and we all want to do that. It's something that we should be doing, but the differential between I'm guessing your KPIs are pretty hard numbers, and I'm going to come to Andrea on this as well, because I know yours are, hard numbers for next year based on what I said. Yeah, well done, but next year we've got to do better. How do you sort of, in terms of 2024, would you like to just at moments, do you want to say to people, look at my bloody KPIs and just understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to do my best for you and everything else, but I have to meet these numbers. This is a tough balance for me. Is there an understanding with the team that you do have that pressure? And another question is, does the team really care about the bottom line of VPRO? Now there's a question.
I think being a purpose-driven company, we have this advantage of being able to invest in education. And also we have the advantage of people understanding that we need to be profitable to support investments in education. But at the end of the day, people work to get their salary, people have their own interest. And when that personal interest of our employee is aligned to the interests of the company, well, that's in most of the cases ideal, but then what we try to do, when I wake up in the morning, I actually think about what can I do today to help my team to succeed, to help my team to actually achieve those KPIs together. And to me, the HR KPIs are practically driven by the business KPIs, so it's not that they are different and HR has a different mission. We have a mission altogether. So the fact that HR is investing in developing resources, it's actually helping business, because those resources are available then for the business to pick up. We are now working to create a sort of a future job or future job path, because there are new needs that we see on the market, and there are new roles that we didn't even think of in the past couple of years, yeah, and they are shaping up now. So we need to prepare our workforce to actually be able to deliver those services of tomorrow. So it's my job as well, from a business perspective, to invest in developing resources and make sure that I have people with whom I can deliver those services. Yeah. So to me, the KPIs are linked. It's no difference between my KPIs and HR KPIs or talent development KPIs. It's the same KPIs, only that they are translated by different teams into different measurements to guide us and to tell us at every point in time where we are in achieving that major objective.
Okay. Andrea, I'm not even going to ask you a question. I'm just going to ask you just to comment on that.
I was actually, I will comment in a minute, but I also want to answer something else which you said earlier. Do you cascade the pressure? And in the context of tougher KPIs and, you know, share price maybe going down and business growth slowing down in some industries, we do get a lot of pressure in our positions. How do you not cascade that pressure? And I think that is the biggest challenge for leaders in 2024, because I think you still need to cascade information. You still need to share the truth. You need to share the KPI, the dashboard, whatever it is that we are all using, right, to share information. So you need to share the information, but not the pressure that you are getting with it. And that is really not easy. That's a personal challenge. And every morning I just take a deep breath and you know, get in my car and motivate myself, because sometimes in some positions that nobody really spends a lot of time motivating you, right? So you need to motivate yourself. That's not the challenge. And get resources within yourself to motivate the others. So that is what I find right now in the challenging business environment, the biggest topic. How do you still cascade information without the pressure? How do you come out from a difficult budget submission review, which was denied, and have that really negative energy that comes with it, and walk into an employee engagement meeting? And right? Yeah. And you need to have, you are bashed in the face by your boss about your numbers, and then you walk out of that, and you need to smile to the employees. And you still need to do it. Right? So, so I think that the ability to change your attitude and adjust the way you behave to the context you're in is the greatest challenge for leadership nowadays. Okay. In the toughest business environment. Okay.
So it's almost like a performance that you have to do every day. You're still being authentic, but you have to take a deep breath when somebody walks in and go back into that sort of mode. Karina, just on this, and Irina, you know, I was being sort of partly sort of generalization when I said about do people care about the bottom line. It's okay. I was just going to make the point there, but for Karina. But is there a case that we can't please everybody? We talk about attrition and attraction and all these things, which are still a big challenge in terms of the differentiation and that loyalty. I know when I was young, you kind of signed up for a career with the company. Now it's kind of, well, it may be a stepping stone or it may be a career. So how do you manage that in terms of this KPI when you do have individuals within a department? Let's say you have Colin in the department who's kind of a bit thing, and I may be quite influential. We touched on social media, and I read a horrible statistic that people were more engaged to opinion on social media than facts now. So if you're an influential person, you can actually be quite, I won't even mention Brexit, but anyway. So in terms of the team, how do we overcome that? You were quite hard in your words, and it was almost like, are you on the bus? Because if you're not on a bus, you can get off at the next stop. It wasn't that tough, But is there a bit of ruthlessness that we have to do if we really want to achieve what we need to achieve in 2024? How do we manage it? It's a tough question.
No, yes, it is a tough question. And it's a very complex one. I'll try to be as summarized as possible. So when it comes to KPIs, OKRs, financial targets, I know that's painful. Any kind of metrics, internal or client-facing metrics, I do believe there are two major verticals or factors that I'm looking into. First, not only are they smart defined, but are they feasible? That's the first question that needs to be asked and answered. And then I think, especially in the BPO and shared service world, and obviously that's a trend that is going on, which I'm very happy about it, that we step more from the execution level into consultancy level. And even in front of our clients, we are there as consultants. And, you know, I've been explaining zillions of times by now why 25 KPIs are not going to make real added value. They're not going to add value to the client business. And that's, you know, you can create a similarity in internal as well, internal metrics and like attrition, like engagement and so on and so forth. So are they feasible? The targets, like hard mathematics, are they feasible? Again, to my example, if you have multiple KPIs, internal or client-facing, are they contradicting each other? Because they do sometimes, especially when you have 25 on the list. So it's our job as management, starting with the middle management upwards, to explain, to have argumentation, and to fight, in a sense, for what makes sense, and to be driven by the common sense and logic. That's the first factor. The second factor is, if they are feasible and we agree to put them in a contract, or we agreed with them internally, then we need to make sure that the people, the teams that we are relying upon for them to deliver them, they understand them. When I say understand, it's not a definition, it's the reporting part, it's how do we extract them, it's what is their impact and outcome on the business, on the client business, on our own business. We need to make sure that the transparency and the communication is there, so everyone has the same understanding. Now, if we are talking about the behavioral, let's say, part of the story, that's I would say it's a different topic. Are you in the bus or not? That's a different topic. But, you know, even there, sometimes it's just a lack of understanding. There were people that are coming into my office and they're asking me, why do you do this? Why do you take this decision? And I'm always welcome these questions, because it triggers me as well, you know, to question my own decisions. But I think that's the important part. We need to sit with the people. We need to make them understand why. And there's another thing. I call it what's in for me factor. Which is fair enough. Which is fair enough. I mean, what's in for me? Yeah. Whatever that is, depending on the situation. Like a child with their parents. Why do I need to go to the park? What's in for me? I know we call it mentoring, but it is a form of parenting at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So we need to make sure that people are getting, and I used yesterday actually that example, that people are getting in the same boat. And I said that yesterday, well, if we are in different rivers, it's difficult to be in the same boat. Yeah, sure. So I think it's a good analogy. Andrea, I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but I'm conscious I want to get onto the ESG subject before the break. I know Antonio is itching to tell us all about that. But just the finish thing, and one of the questions for you is going to be about the skills that you need as leaders, or you may need extra of in 2024. So just sort of think about that question. But I want to throw it out to the audience very quickly. I'm going to ambush a couple of people, if you don't mind. I'm going to drive the cameraman probably mad when I do it. But I just want to ask you, in terms of what you think are the key skills for a leader, just one in 2024. Could I ask you?
Yeah, just one. It should be authentic. That's the first thing. Okay.
Authenticity. You're smiling at me, I know, so I'm going to ask you.
Truthfulness.
Okay. Are you listening to this? Mirella, you've made me do all the work so far. So you're going to answer a question. What do leaders need to?
To respect all the people.
Okay. Authenticity, respect, all these nice things. You made eye contact with me, so you know I'm going to ambush you.
We have our 5 habits of building trust. Walk the talk.
There you go. Irina's proud of you. One more. Ah, Mr. Kratchen. What skills do leaders need?
To be challenged by himself and for the team. Challenging.
I knew you'd give an intelligent answer. Thank you very much. I'll just share this very quickly. But Mirella, can I do a little promotion? Like 2 seconds, because some of you may know that I recently wrote a book called The Psychological Advantage. And it was about, I did a lot of study into psychology of every aspect of business, and I also did a leadership program recently, and I asked the question, what employees want and what leaders need. If I may, I'll share it with you, then I just want to go down the line and say same question, one answer, what you think that leaders need to do more of, or maybe something completely different. I'll try and read it very quickly. So what employees want is empathy from leadership. Sounding like your parents. Empathy from leadership, did you hear me? Growth opportunities, a fair work-reward contract, to reject menial mundane work, a life-work balance, well-being and mental health, which we'll come on to later, to rethink the structure of work, and values alignment was what they said. So quite sort of deep and sophisticated answers coming from them. What leaders need is to cultivate engagement. You'll be pleased to know, because I think we're all on the same page here. Agile thinking and execution, to lead with inclusion and transparency, emotional effectiveness, to create psychological safety, which is quite a powerful one, to mentor emerging leaders, which was mentioned by one of you, a service-orientated mindset, which is mentioned, and stress, energy management skills, again, which subject we'll come on to later. So just before we get on to the ESG subject, just very quickly, just coming down the line, is there something there you would say, yes, that's something that, this is the recommendation for all leaders in the room, managers in the room? What would be the one thing you would say, let's do more of, or let's do that?
I would say empathy, but not as just I need to.
It's okay, so we're on there.
I would say empathy, but not as in the parenting, because we're not parent and child there. We're adult, so it's a different kind of relationship. So many times leaders mistake it. Let's get adult about the relationship in the office. So empathy.
Okay, so some transactional analysis going on there.
I say empowering and accountability, they come together, and it's a two-way street in my head. Okay. I mean, we need to empower more our people to let them do the mistakes. I do not believe failure exists. I believe that failure is just a learning curve, and as long and as quick as we let ourselves first, and then all our colleagues and peers and team members to make the mistakes, learn their lessons, and be better next day, I think our businesses and our lives altogether will be better.
Okay. So if somebody asks you, I think what you're saying there, your advice, if somebody asks you what you should do, don't answer the question, just throw it back at them, say, what do you think you should do? And they will probably know the answer and encourage empowerment.
It is one
ownership.
Obviously, you can be there when they don't have answers, or when they have tried and they have failed, or maybe the outcome was not necessarily the expected one. And I think it's a dual role. I would let them try, and this is what I'm trying to do, to empower people.
Yeah.
I don't want to run the show alone, never. At every level of management, I think it's important to be inclusive and let the people, be at the table, at the decision-making table.
Okay, I let them make mistakes, I guess. Andrea.
So I think that nowadays the most important is flexibility. And I think it's a manifestation of the agile behavior in leadership. Be open to change course. Be open to change your decisions. Even if you yourself made it yesterday, if the circumstances have changed, don't get stuck on the fact that, yeah, but I decided that yesterday. Sure, but your circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
So be flexible and be open to really change your decision and adjust to the circumstances.
Okay.
And go where the need takes you.
Okay. It's a bit of a cultural shift, this as well, isn't it?
It
you know,
is.
I'm a Brit, and we love being wrong. We take pleasure in being wrong. Oh, yeah, you're right. You know, we take more pleasure in that than actually being right in the first place. In Romania, it's slightly different. So it's a bit of a cultural shift we're talking about here,
I think the times of 5-year plans is long gone.
Okay.
Really long gone. I think now we are doing quarterly plans, if even. And I think really mentally being ready to accept that and really change our decisions every day, I think that's a mental change that is interesting.
Yeah. So flexible strategies, Irina, I guess, going forward.
Yeah, but also creating that psychological safety for everyone in the company, because that's in line with what you said. Culturally, in Romania, I think we have a fear of failing, and that comes from the education. Yeah, so I think everybody needs, as a leader, to create that safety place where employees can explore and can be wrong, can go wrong. Yeah.
It's transitioning, isn't it? It's starting to happen. I think. I know it's starting to happen. So it's a journey, isn't it?
The leader to focus more on their self-growth, because the moment you, for example, are more centered, you will be able to make more sustainable decisions. The more you know yourself, you will be able to understand others and mirror them and maybe help them in their own growth, because this is the main role of the leader, to grow others. The more you understand how your emotional triggers are, you'll be able to manage your own stress, and you'll be able to present to the team that persona that is authentic also, but in the same that not to put the pressure on people, and also putting the focus and even a passion in your own self-growth will inspire the others, and this is also very important for the leader.
Okay, Antonio, you've had all those answers. You've got to come up with something fresh and new now.
Yes, I would like to thank you again for the invitation, because for me this is a fantastic experience, because in the panel we have so much experience, colleagues from the panel, so I'm learning also. It's a really pleasure to be here. What I can say is that I thought about the list you read, and it's nothing wrong in that one. Everything is correct. I think the most important is to communicate more and more and more and repeatedly, and not once a year, but maybe once a month or weekly with the managers, middle management. And I think that's the key of the future, because how you can do mentorship with employees that are working from home, and it's a correct demand, but how you can do it, and this is what you have to share.
It's more challenging, isn't it?
Yes, you want to evolve, but then we have to interact more. You want to evolve personally, and also to like your job and evolve further together with the company. Then you have to help also the company to do that, and how we do that together. So I think it's communication.
Okay. And I think from a psychological perspective, I'm not going back to the book, don't worry, but I think the emotion is always a key factor, and I think everything that you've said really, and it also comes down to when one of your team is at home and maybe a family member asks them about, say, I'm going to pick on you, Irina, again. So, no, you don't have to say anything, but it's really, asks about you, what is their response? And it's that emotional response, I think, as leaders, that you know you're heading in the right direction. How we find that out is a little bit more difficult, but I think it's the way that we're perceived or described by other people is really the essence of us in terms of the good leadership. We've got a bit of time left before the first break, and you can keep the microphone in your hand, because we want to talk about ESG. It's one of those things that's kind of, we talked about commitment, and some people may not be committed and not on the bus, and some people may be. I think the same applies with ESG. We're still going through an education and a learning, embracing. There's a certain amount of denial going on as well. So it's quite a challenging time time for leaders in terms of their teams, because on the leadership side, I guess ESG is becoming gone from a desirable to a necessity through legislation happening and more legislation in the future. So Antonio, tell us, I know in terms of in the construction business, how absolutely important and necessary it already is. But tell us a little bit about it in terms of Vastid.
Yes, it's a very important topic which now it's discussed in all the levels. The so-called ESG, which is actually, there were a lot of initiatives during the years, green buildings, health and safety certifications and others. And now all this is under a correct umbrella called ESG. Currently we have in Bucharest 100,000 square meters of leasable area and more than 40 tenants. Again, I repeat, we do the canvas. We prepare the buildings for the tenants. We have a high pressure from the perspective of development perspective, because we are not allowed to do compromise on quality, to do so-called value engineering, to buy cheaper materials, to get a better price on final construction. So, and the rents are at a certain level. So we have a high pressure to be performant. So this is our mandate, and by this, until recently, it was quite difficult, because in a market where it's a very strong competition and there are developers that they are building, renting and selling, and you have to keep the buildings on long term and you have to deliver quality, it's very hard to compete. But then ESG came, and I realized that now it's rewarding, because we have buildings that, and of course, unfortunately, the pandemic came, and the buildings, they were prepared already, because we have a clear height of 3 meters as a standard in all our projects in Europe. We have one of the highest fresh air supply in each building, one of the best in Europe, and this was because we wanted to have that canvas prepared for our tenants, depending on the number of the employees they have per floor, not to have a bad experience from fresh air perspective, 100% fresh air supply. And then pandemic came, and this became very important for the health of and safety of the employees, because of the fact that we are not using the used air when we are not mixing it with the fresh air. This was resulted in a safe environment for the employees. So whatever happens, we eliminate the air. We are not circulating on the whole floor, and we are coming with the fresh air. So this is only one of the aspects. Then amenities, part of ESG. It's a complex subject. I will start with the governance, because environmental, social governance, all the time we speak about environment, and it's all of us, we know about that, and we do already a lot of things. How we select our partners. They have very good policies against corruption. There are many subjects to be discussed, and it's just the beginning. The fact is that we will be audited. Over 100,000 people will be employed in Big Four auditing companies in the next years. Already they employed a lot, and they will employ more, because we will be audited from this perspective. So it's starting from us as developers and environmental, creating the environment for the employees, up to the tenants. All of us, we have to work on preparing the companies and the teams for the next years. And this is another challenge for 2024, because I think from 2025 we'll be audited, all of us.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go right to the end there, and then work my way back. So you're going to be the last one to speak. Andrea, just in terms of this subject, I think with any, I had to go to Carrefour yesterday, do a little bit of shopping. My wife, I always make the mistake of sending my wife. I was coming back from the golf course, and I said, I'm calling into Carrefour, do you need anything? And when I push send, I think, oh, why did I do that again? Because I know I'm going to get about 100 things, and they've all got the word bio written. I had to find bio goat's milk. So I challenge anybody to go to Carrefour and find some bio goat's milk, because I couldn't find it anywhere. I found goat's milk, but not the bio one. But the point I'm making, a bit of therapy there as well for me, the point I'm making is there's a cost to ESG. I think it's fair to say there's an investment that's required. It is, as I said, it's a desirable that's moved into a necessity. How do we keep it desirable, and what can we do as organisations without it hitting our bottom line? So I guess it's part of your budget now, I guess, in terms of 2024. Was that a question or was it a statement? I'm not sure, but
a bit of both. It's okay. So I work in banking, and from the three, let's say, feet of this issue, in terms of governance, I think we can say we're ahead of the pack, because there's a thing called European banking guidelines that are kind of forcing you to look very, very specifically into how you do your governance, from how you select your people, how you promote them, what you do throughout your experience. Now, of course, how do you make, because your question coming back to that, so from this I can say we're fortunate. On the other aspects, we're working like everyone around the panel. But how do you bring up the interest in this, because it's a cost and it's an effort. I'm coming back to one of your former things. I don't know if people really care about ESG like they don't care about your bottom line. People who work for you, they don't care about your bottom line. They may understand, but to invest in that, in your bottom line, no. And I've been 23 years in business, and I don't think. They invest in what they believe in, and it's about how you can translate what ESG or your bottom line means to each and every one of them. And for that, you need the middle managers, you need the leaders above who can translate, who can do that visioning. You need the middle managers to have the purposeful conversations about why is it important that, let's create a green credit, why? Let's see why that is important for you. What does that get you? And so on and so forth. So nothing, it's just an angle, and how you translate that to each employee.
Okay, Corina, everybody's sort of saying it's the Y generation. They're 6% of the workplace, and they're going to be 10%, 15% over the next few years. They're the people who are going to be driving. They're the ones who the Greta Thunberg, although she's about 24 years old now, I think. They're the ones who are driving on the environmental thing. But is that the reality? And should that be the focus? Because I'm a granddad, as I mentioned, and my care of the planet and all of these things is now sort of motivated by little Nicholas and Freddie, who's now 7 years old. That's my motivation to be more environmentally friendly. But it's still a challenge, isn't it? I think we've all got to, we're neighbours, and we have the green bin and the yellow bin, and I'm meticulous. I even wash every plastic item as well, and I'm doing absolutely correctly, and it drives me bloody crazy. Every Wednesday morning, I watch them, they turn up, and they're both in the same bloody truck. So we... but it would be easier to put them in two different trucks, I think, yeah. Thank you for that bit of therapy. But how can we?
But I think, and this is the role of corporations, entrepreneurship, everybody in. I think it's an education topic. Maybe simplistic said, but it is an education topic. And I think, like Irina just mentioned, that we started to not look at failure in Romania like something bad. That's similar.
That's progress. Yeah.
It's a progress, and I want to keep the optimism here. And I think we are progressing in this matter too. But we are still at the beginning, and you can see the younger generation. However we want to call them, you can actually see that they are very serious about these topics.
Yeah.
As they are serious about inclusion and diversity, as they are serious about many topics that maybe 20 years ago were not necessarily on the front pages. And thank God they are serious. And I think they are pushing us, who we are still struggling to find the almond milk, or the, what was it, the goat?
The goat's milk,
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
So I salute the younger generations who are giving us a gently nudge, you know, on the back, like move and help us get to on the other side, because it is an investment and it is a cost, but I think it is an investment for the future.
Okay. Andrea?
So I do agree that it's about education, and I noticed that the younger generation genuinely cares about this, and I think what I discovered it's important is to make it relatable, because corporations tend to talk a big game, right? Big words. Marketing people make nice, text and documents, which will still have to be produced. But I think it's our role to make that relatable to the people and give them the chance to contribute at their level. I mean, corporations will make investments, will do things in the buildings, in the policies, but give people the chance to contribute at their level, to have their small contribution to feel that they've done something themselves.
Okay, that's good advice. And Irina, I guess we were talking about this hierarchical culture that now is diminishing. This is a great excuse, I think, now, isn't it, to actually bring those people in a more softer, stealth way, so they don't feel like, oh, they're going to ask me about fundamental financial things and this and get me involved in this. As we said, the environmental part of it is something they're very comfortable with, and I guess going forward it's going to actually increase that engagement that you are already sort of cultivating.
I guess to succeed with this side, you have to give it a meaning, and you have to link it with the rest of everything you do in the company. So you can't go out and plant trees, but then in the office you don't have a recycling bin. Or you can't go out and preach that people have to balance work and life, but then you ask them to work overtime. So they are all connected, and we are one of the companies that can be proud to say that we did it. On 19th of November, you are all invited. We are going to start planting the WIPRO forest in Romania. So we are expecting our clients, our partners, our education partners, everyone to come and join our efforts, because we are going to plant a forest. It's not that we are going to plant 5 trees, but it's thousands of them. We also have an event that we run annually. It's called WIPRO Run, and it happened, I guess, 2 weekends ago. And it's one of those events where we come with our families and where we bring our children to help them understand that they need to have a healthy life. And this year was the first time for me joining this event, and I was really happy to see that even children of 2 or 3 years old, they have their own run, and we also been able to bring. I took my mom, and she ran the marathon. I didn't,
wow,
but she did it. Yeah. Wow. So it's ways to actually give all these initiatives the meaning, but also make sure that you are authentic as a company as well. Yeah, and they can see then all these coming from all the other initiatives in the company. So it's not an isolated event, because yes, you can't keep up with all that exists, and now there's a competition in this area, who does more, but then are they part of your culture, your values as a company, and do your employees resonate with those and what you are trying to achieve? So we are not trying to get them motivated to work overtime by planting a forest or by running together. And by the way, it's a global event, so all WIPRO employees around the world, all 200 270,000 employees run that day. But it's a way to tell them we have to come together more often, even in this hybrid model with the offices and everything. I think we've been one of the first companies that actually announced that coming to the office will not mean you come to the office and you push to close the cases or you have meetings from the morning until evening, but you come to socialize, you come to communicate with the others, Okay. So it's, as I said, there are so many options out there and there's such a competition that I feel sometimes that they interview us and they come and what do you do for environment? What do you do for education? What do you do for that? But it has to come together, all of it.
Okay. And Gina, I think what Irina is saying there is our marketing machines can do a wonderful job in terms of our responsibility as an organization, but the heart of it is within the company, is with our teams and with our colleagues and how we care there, I think is what you're really sort of getting onto, isn't it? That's the priority, and then the rest becomes a natural thing. We're almost running out of time. Just a quick word on this.
Yes. Do you remember those cases when you see state presidents planting a tree for a public image and they don't even care to actually go into the mud and really plant that tree? And sometimes I see the ONG representative coming and actually planting that tree because otherwise we'll die. This is exactly, from my perspective, the authenticity of leadership and actually walking the talk. So first of all, ESG is an opportunity for us for growth, for personal growth, and also from the organizational perspective, but personal perspective, because at the end of the day, it gives us the opportunity to really care and act for things that we care about, like environment, people, resources, and so on. Whatever is important for us as a humanity, it's reflected in this ESG. Although it's a regulation, in fact, it's an opportunity for us to evolve and to progress. And let's think about the people chapter, because in the ESG, this people chapter is an opportunity for people function to evolve its practices into more sustainable practices, starting from on a life cycle, starting from recruitment, from talent acquisition. You are able to attract people who are more in tune with your values, with the actions that you do in the community and so on. Then we go into the performance development, or into the development itself. We have in the people chapter targets for education, for internal, for people in the community, employees, but also you are able to invest more into the education outside of your community, but of course in which you are interested. Then going into the employer branding, for example, new generations, Gen Z, Alpha that will come in 2028, they are highly in tune with these values. They will ask from us to walk these values, like, I don't know, taking care about the environment and so on. We already have people in the interview in market now asking us, which are your values? How do you act in reality, and so on? So the pressure is already on us in this regard. Okay. And most of all, it's very important as an opportunity for leaders to become more sustainable. And what I mean by sustainable leaders is sustainable decisions and genuine care about their people, because they are part of the formula of success. And also promoting individual leadership. That means that any person from any level of the organization can recycle a pet, can go to a community planting session, and so on. And that's why for us, the community engagement activations work, like planting trees together, running marathons together, and all the others, the other educational programs that we have, because the energy that people invest in those community together activities will be further reflected into job as new energy.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've run out of time, but I'm sure we just want a very, very quick final word on this, because you started the thing off. What's the advice for everybody, or just a very quick word?
Advice? Go on. Oh, that's stuff. It's like our house, the earth. So we have to act like it. We have to take care about it, clean it, maintain it, the same. We breathe the same air, actually. We are in the same house, all of us.
Okay, it's good advice. Good advice. When we all go home, just have a look around. If there's disposable cups and things that don't need to be there, let's start at home, and it'll create that sort of cascading effect. Thank you very much indeed. A round of applause for our panel. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back afterwards, and we're going to talk about well-being, but we're going to do it from a different perspective in terms of what's coming up and what's happening right now, and also about diversity, and maybe not in your definition you may have in your head right now. We're going to sort of expand on that. So we're going to take a break, and thank you to everybody who's watching us online. Go and get a cup of coffee, put the kettle on, or a cup of tea, whatever you're doing, and we'll be back in 15 minutes. Should we say 15 minutes? Yeah, 15 minutes from now, and we'll start again. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands, new habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands, new habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands, new habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands, new habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
Okay, well, welcome back and welcome. I think we've got more people here than we did in the first session. So maybe some have left, but some more have arrived. So thank you very much for being back. We've had a great first session where we sort of dug deep in terms of leadership, and we're going to continue the digging deep in the second session, which is split into two areas. It's making the best of academic and corporate partnership, and a very sort of sensitive or profound subject on diversity, equity and inclusion in the spotlight. We're also going to be talking about that word well-being, a well-used word, and we're maybe going to redefine what well-being really does mean for us going forward. And to help me on that journey, I have this wonderful array. Now we have one male and all females. So starting with Andrei Krachin, who's not a new title, but over the last few months, congratulations, advisor to the Ministry of Education. So Andrei, old friend of mine, congratulations and welcome. Ruxandra Lupsha, we've got the little squiggle under the S, as not on my notes, Eastern European HR Director for NXP Semiconductors. I'm reading them to make sure I get your job titles right, because I know people are very sensitive about job titles. And Rada Popescu, who's the Senior Associate Employment law, I thought it said low then, employment law specialist for NUR, very welcome. Adela Chauvet, if I pronounced that correctly? Yep. Okay, are you just saying yes to be kind, or I did do it? Okay. International Assembly representative for Romania with ACCA. And finally, I always call you my old friend, don't I? Because you've become an old friend because we've known each other for 13 years. And Georgiana Andrei, who's still the corporate sales director for Regina Maria. Please give them a little round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome them. Thank you very much for being here. Georgiana, I'm going to start with you, because I know in terms of, I made a little sort of almost a sarcastic comment about the word well-being, because I think sometimes when organizations have implemented a well-being program, but there's some organizations either haven't bothered to do it or haven't been able to do it. So I just want to give us a perspective of where we are in the subject from your side, but also looking forward a little bit to 2024. How can we keep this sort of mindset and understanding of how important well-being is? And the final thing, got lots of questions today, the final part is really sort of understanding from, so we talk about well-being, having life-work balance and everything else. I can say that I'm a golfer, and my golf handicap has never been so low as it is now, so I think I've got a little bit of a balance. But is it just about that balance in life? Have we got something deeper going on that people are maybe in denial about? They're saying I'm okay, when really deep down there are some issues going on, and how is it related to the work environment or what we're trying to do as organizations? Is it actually, I guess the question is it working? Is it working? So you've got about 5 questions you have to remember and eloquently give an answer to every single one of them. Georgiana Andrei, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, complicated. First of all, good morning for everybody here and everybody watching us. You've asked lots of questions. First of all, I will touch on one point on which you asked if we are okay or if we are not okay. If you look at most of the studies, you would say that Romania is really ranking top, because when asked how well are we are answering that we are okay. So judging by that, you would say that we are okay, but leaving the joke aside, I believe this well-being concept, it's a concept that over the past 2-3 years, we've been talking a lot. So I don't think there is anybody saying no, well-being is not important for us as persons or for organizations. And there are lots of definitions. There is also a definition of the International Work Organization that is defining well-being as being the whole ecosystem that a person has in relationship with the company. And here it's their relationship with their work, with their co-workers, with the organization as a whole. Us at Regina Maria, when we talk about well-being, we look at the person as a whole, their physical health and their mental health. And talking about trends, I don't think that today in Romania we find any organization that hasn't done certain things to improve the well-being of their employees. I think I've said it many times. When we launched the concept of well-being in organizations, which was in 2019, our discussions with the HR teams was usually to convince the P&L owners of the fact that, yes, it's worth it to invest here. I don't think this is anymore a question if it's worth it to invest here or not. And what we are seeing, and many of our clients are doing this, they are thinking, how can we develop this type of projects on the long run? It's not about, I don't know, doing webinars or talking about one subject today and then in 3 months about another subject. It's about consistency, about understanding what their employees need and which are the problems that they are facing, and trying to offer a framework in which they can function. Because I think this well-being, it's not about the company and the company being responsible of the well-being of the employee. It's not only on the employee. So it's both the company and the employee need to work together. And we strongly believe that it's a matter of consistency. And our discussions with our partners is into defining long-term projects. And if before long-term we were considering to be 1 year, now we are even thinking, okay, how do this program look on a 3-year time frame? And in reality, we are learning a lot from what is happening at international level, and we have lots of clients that tell us, look, what's happening in UK, what's happening in the Western Europe, what's happening in US. Let's see what is applicable also in Romania. So I don't think it's only a buzzword. It's here to stay, and I think each of us feel it on our own, in our own reality. And it's about developing something with impact.
Okay. Roxandra, I'm going to come to you from an HR perspective. And you use the word definition or defining, I think, in the sentence there. And I'm going to say the younger people without sounding like an old granddad that I actually am, before you say. The definition, and maybe, Andre, we might come back, Georgiana, rather, we might come back to you, sorry. As Andre and Andrea. Do the younger people, when I say that, Romania does have, especially in like the business services industry, in fact, when there's quite a low average age. Do they know when somebody says, "Are you okay?" which is what you started off with, when they say yes, what do they mean? Well, not just the younger people. Do we all understand what is well-being? What is it? What does it mean? How does it feel? What a question that is.
I suppose that in the corporate world, all the efforts that we're making for employees to feel happy, engaged, mentally and physically healthy, having a close to very healthy life, practicing some sports and so on, has to bear a name. So we put well-being on this because it comprises mostly everything. So well-being is really a vast domain and can include mostly all our efforts.
But so you're saying it's a personal thing. So if you talk to
Exactly.
Andre and you talk to me, our definition of well-being may be slightly different depending on our lives.
Yeah.
So if Andre lives in an apartment and I live in a house with a big garden, for instance, my definition might be he doesn't. He has a massive mansion with a huge grounds and acres of grounds and everything. But our definition of what makes it feel better. So it could be on circumstances as well. And Dorota, just coming to you on this from a legal perspective. I know there are guidelines being sort of happening, but is it getting to this? Are organisations left to make that definition and hope that it's being embraced and everybody is okay? That's what we want. Or from a legal perspective, what's happening now and going forward?
So unfortunately, we have a lack of legislative framework in this area, and we are seeing progresses. 2 days ago, actually, a guide has been implemented for the employers for combating and preventing any moral harassment and gender-based harassment. And we see progress. We see the authorities looking at the employers and focusing on inspections in the area of well-being, equal opportunity, equal treatment. But unfortunately, it is left for the employers to define well-being, define equal opportunity, define diversity, equity, inclusion. So unfortunately, we don't have too much now.
To your point, on the other hand, the government just passed recent legislation changes to increase VAT, for example, from 5 to 19% for sports facilities, fitness centers, and so on. So it's a bit contradictory measures that they're taking. And young generation, to answer a bit the question you asked before, they are very sensitive to that, and they're not always saying, I'm okay. That's us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to actually make it's a bit of a sexist remark, but it's about my wife, and she won't mind. But when I say you're okay, and she says I'm fine, I take a little step back, because I mean it doesn't quite mean exactly that. But it's a joke. But it was not a joke. It's reality. But it emphasises sometimes we hear something, but it's not actually exactly what's happening. Adela, you were nodding your head there about this change in the VAT thing and the implications of that.
Okay, I don't want to comment on that now. I was actually nodding more because I had the same point in mind. So in my wearing another hat, not only the ACCA one, in my role with global training, where I'm managing the business of global training in Romania, and I'm also actually delivering technical training, technical classes to students, I call them, but most of them Gen Z. I noticed that the answer nowadays is actually an authentic one. It's not always, yes, I'm okay, out of courtesy, as we used to do it in the past. Currently, I'm trying to control this myself as well. Whenever someone asks me, are you okay? If I'm really not okay, but I have to be like really bad, then I would say, not really. Yeah, and then I would maybe expand on that. But with Gen Z at least, if they are not okay, they will say I'm not okay. And then you don't know, maybe, I don't know, myself or other colleagues of mine wouldn't actually know how to pick up on that. How do you continue on that? Because usually you'd say like, you're okay, yes, I'm okay, and we continue the conversation. So.
Wow, quite a challenge. Georgiana, we'll come back to you on the final word on this one, but I'm sure we're going to come back on it before the end of the session. But it's interesting, like the British, for instance, when somebody says, how are you, Colin, the response is normally not so bad. So we always have this sort of negative connotation to our response. Yeah, could be better, but we're actually saying I'm okay, but we can't say I'm okay. But I guess in Romanian culture particularly, there's more of a directness, and now you're saying that younger generation is being brutally honest with their responses, which should be a good thing, I think, Georgiana, shouldn't it?
I wanted to mention on one of the previous questions, talking about the legislation and the framework there. There are some initiatives at European level that says that companies should be more involved, especially in the mental health of their employees, and probably the legislation for occupational health will suffer some changes coming with the directions from the European Union. Also, I think in 2020 or 2021, there is a standard, an ISO standard 45003, that talks about the definition of a well-run company that takes care of the psychosocial risks and helps companies how to identify psychosocial risks and how to mitigate them and take care of them. So there are initiatives and there are directions in which companies are going. And also to the previous point about the people that started to say when they are not okay, this is one of the initiatives that we are having, and I also had it with my team in 2022 probably, when I realized that they should be aware of the fact that it's okay not to be okay. Because if I have a headache and I can't concentrate, I will say, or if my tooth hurts, I will say I can't concentrate. But if I'm feeling down, I will not feel quite comfortable to say, today I'm down, I can't be 100%. And we need to make this conversation an easy one, and I strongly believe it starts with the leaders. If they have this courage, and talking about well-being initiatives, the most accessed well-being program that we have, it's first aid training, but it's for a psychosocial first aid training for managers to understand how to identify a colleague that is just feeling down, or a colleague that is in depression, or a colleague that might be facing other problems, and how do you cope with it? Because we don't know, exactly how you said, okay, somebody says it's not okay. Okay, and what do I do now? What do I say next? How do I... And it's important for us to understand how to react to this new reality in which all of us should be more open to how we feel.
Is there a danger of the over exploitation of well-being in organisations as well, though? So if no, that's the question. I'm not going to ask multiple questions. Is that happening?
It's a personal opinion, and I'm not a psychologist, so I can't say. Probably there is such a risk at a certain point, and it's a question that we have, for example, when we introduce like therapy sessions for clients of ours. Many times the HR teams ask us, how much is too much? How much do we promote this? How much do we enter into people's life? What's the framework? And then we leave. So it is a question, and yes, it can be overused.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have
Are we in danger of making people a little bit too delicate in this?
I was just to the earlier point. I was just going to say that companies nowadays are throwing benefits at employees, massively throwing benefits without necessarily asking them about whether
assuming
they need
that
or
there are
not.
benefits.
Assuming
Is that what
they
you're saying,
would
yeah?
need that. An example of a benefit which is extremely helpful for employees, and it is very discreet, but actually very useful, as far as I understand from the reports, is the Employee Assistance Program, the EAP, delivered, by the way, to us, at least by TELUS. And employees prefer to call the line and speak up and talk about their problems, because they know that nobody else would know, that the company would not know. You know, HR is still perceived as, the interface with the company, a department, a person who's going to convey any message that you would share to the company, and
almost
that may hurt you.
becomes a judgmental thing.
Not necessarily judgmental, but they will pass on the information.
Okay.
That's what employees usually fear.
Okay. Andora, I guess what you're describing there is well-being is in danger of being perceived if you're suffering, and it could be a mild, it could be just your inability to get your work done can affect your well-being, and what we're saying is potentially people will see it as a weakness. So actually conveying that, and I guess ideas like the confidential helpline can do that, but even calling that is almost a sign of that you are not able to cope with it, and maybe some people will reject it. Did that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah, but we would never know about that, because it's...
No, from the individual
really
perspective, they're reaching out, but this kind of... it's almost, I guess, like a placebo effect. So as long as people know that there's help there if they need it, that they can do that confidentially, maybe they don't, a bit like me having maybe a couple of paracetamols next to me wherever I go, I'll probably have less headaches because I know that the paracetamols are going to take it away from me. Probably not true, but what's your thoughts on this?
I just wanted to add something regarding the employees saying that they are not okay.
Look, I'm the moderator. Go on, ask a question.
No. I just wanted to add something. We are witnessing a trend that is called grade realization, which means that candidates and employees are more focused on the quality of the workplace rather than the benefits that are being granted, salary benefits. So if you are an employer and you are trying to hire new people, you have to look at what benefits you are granting and how you are granting them, but you have to look at the quality of your workplace. If you have anti-harassment policies, equality policies, day policies, any kind of policies, the candidates will look at, and they will look at how you implement them, how is the well-being within your company. So that is kind of important right now for the candidates, and we are seeing a lot of jobs and few candidates. So you have
that's
to...
quite a change from a couple of years ago when they were sat in an interview and asking about other things, the gym and all that sort of stuff, but now it's moving actually, so they're actually challenging at the interview. Is that, I guess that's your experience and what's happening?
I think asking about well-being and what program you have, we didn't reach yet this moment. Like today, people will ask you what health plan you have. So this is a typical question. We didn't get yet to the point of people ask, or at least based on my knowledge, what's your well-being plan? But we see more and more companies that have like umbrellas for their well-being plans that they promoted. It's a whole marketing campaign around that, because you need people to remember that you have that plan. And probably these plans, once they get more and more structure, they will start to be a differentiator, and people will be asking about this.
Okay. Let's move on, because Andre, you've been patiently. Did you want to say anything about the well-being?
I do have a small comment.
Okay.
Any weakness becomes a strength when you're learning something from it, and that's what we should also teach or also prepare our colleagues for. Whether it's in the educational system, whether it's in a team, whether it's in an entourage you're interacting with, you're never gonna be, I don't know, okay with making a mistake, but you can learn from it. Because as you're gonna probably touch down, you need to learn and be able to relearn or forget what you do, because this is the future. Technology, it's here, and it's here to stay and transform us for good. You need to be able to learn and to be comfortable on making mistakes from which you learn. They will be negative sides only if you don't learn anything from it and you repeat the same mindset or mistake or context and so on and so forth.
Okay. So a good lesson about making. I always say about the when you read a great leader's autobiography, the first two chapters are the failure. And they say we all learn from mistakes, and then obviously the last chapter is sickeningly brilliant. So you can stay with the microphone, because I want to get on to education in terms of academic and corporate partnerships. And we've heard about this for a long time with these collaborations and relationships. Well, simple question for you: where are we today with your newish role? What is you're an advisor to the Ministry of Education? Tell us, Andre, what are you advising them?
Mostly digital transformation and what mechanisms you can use in order to make teachers and students' lives a bit more easier, and give up a bit of bureaucracy in order to have a consistent data and to use it a bit more predictively. It's something that's here. It's here all over in the companies, within education, but when you have a monolithic system that has 300,000 employees and a huge sum of beneficiaries, more than 3 million, you can and you must to prepare every step as it's systemically resistant on all accounts. And here you're just mixing puzzles in order to understand the system and try to get there where you can do it with technology and or with new mechanisms that can help on that.
Okay, Roxandra, I'm gonna go a bit Shakespearean on you, if you don't mind. It's kind of a degree or not a degree. That is the question. Was that impressive? Very Shakespearean. But the point, the one I want to sort of make a point here, and it was something I did a recent video, and it was an observation that I had, and I want to share this with everybody. So I was driving along, and I got sort of slowing up at the traffic lights, and I looked to my right, and there was a driving school car, and I saw this 25-year-old young lady gripping the steering wheel like her life depended on it, staring forward, and by the side of her, and I think we've all seen this, I won't do because I'll fall over, the instructor was there with the seat right back on the telephone. Now, my immediate reaction was one of anger, because that young lady's paid for a driving lesson. But I was thinking more deeply over the next few minutes as I was driving. And I was thinking about, and that's why I say degree or not degree, because I know, when I came to Romania 13 years ago, there was a very strong culture of education. I think the numbers of people, you may correct me on this, going into higher education, into university, was very high compared with many Western countries. And I will come back to you on that. And I was feeling that the academic achievement became the domineering factor in recruitment. And I've experienced it myself, where I've actually been helping to interview, and I've looked at somebody's CV, and I'm thinking, my God, this person could be a brain surgeon with these qualifications. Then I look at the job that they're applying for, and I'm trying to find that correlation. So my point is, going back to the driving school, my question on the video was, what is the purpose of that lesson? Is it from the instructor's perspective, stroke teacher's perspective, as well as the student? Is it to pass the driving test, or is it to learn to drive? Quite two profound different things. I'm not going to comment on driving in Romania, but I think you'll know where I'm going to go on that one. And that's the point. I know whether that transcends into the education system and into our workplace as well, that we're putting people through training to gain a certificate, but I call it the unlearning curve. So we kind of learn, and then there's this unlearning curve that goes down to quite a small percentage of what people are able to grab and take away with them and accelerate their careers or whatever it is. I never ask a short question, do I? I never, ever ask a short question. So going back to the driving thing, is that something in the education system, and I'm going to come back to you on this, that's still there, that's going into our workplace as well? And are we spending a lot of money on training people, but it's not really working in the way that it should do? What a question.
You shouldn't have started me talking about
I've set
education.
I've set her off.
Okay, so about the case with the instructor, to make a joke, for the sake of safety, it depends on where his feet were, because it's a double command. So if his feet were on the command, yeah. But
this case, I think they definitely were not. I don't think his mind was
his
anywhere
mind were elsewhere,
apart from
exactly.
who he was talking
like
to on
in
the telephone.
education system nowadays. From what I see, the quality of the education has decreased for a number of years, but I see a comeback for the last maybe 5 years.
How did it decrease, and how is it increasing?
One of the critical moments in the education system in Romania, to my knowledge, because I have an expert here and I cannot, bow too much.
Expert.
Yeah,
you carry on.
No, he's an expert. Was the switch to the Bologna system of 3 years of university to have your degree, and that's the moment when all the students started to enroll immediately in master programs and immediately after in PhD programs. So we had a lot of PhDs at 25 with zero experience, nothing to say in their area of expertise, because there was not that much expertise, but that was in the past. I suppose that there was a recalibration quite fast after that. It's not for nothing, though, that med school is still same, so 6 years of study before you become a medical doctor. So I think that the quality started to better gradually, and the last 5 years I saw really great students. The Generation Z are really, really great. And they have learned not only theory, but we kind of came to our senses and put some some importance on the practical knowledge they get during their studies.
Okay, Adela, I'm going to come to you because you're from a domain where it's very much the qualification is very important, and I think we all agree that emotion, because of well-being and everything else that we're doing, emotion has really come. So you have to almost be not just a colleague, but a therapist to the people working around you as well. I think looking at Georgiana on that, based on what I said, and I guess it's something you may want to challenge. But how do you see it in your area, in your domain, which is very a task-orientated, meticulous kind of occupation? How do we sort of how do you see what I said about the process?
Okay, so I'm going to give you just a bit of background on the ACCA. I'm pretty sure you know a lot about it. I don't know if everybody in the room knows who we are and what we actually do. And this is the other hat, is the official hat that I'm wearing today. Okay. So we are talking here about a not-for-profit organization which started back in the UK in about 1904. So we have quite some history now. And we are currently, let's say, catering for the needs of about 250,000 members and another 500,000 studying, or let's say members to be, so still students of the ACCA. ACCA stands for the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. I'm a proud member of them. And currently I represent the members in Romania, about 1,000. So in Romania we are, let's say, 4.5K people involved in this, members and students studying to become members. Now what are we studying for? What's the structure? Well, we have the main qualification, which consists basically of 13 exams that students have to sit and pass. And also they have to prove at least 36 months of practical experience. And this is where I get to what was mentioned earlier also about the driver and I
wondered where you were going, but we're going to get there.
Okay, so that's about what we do. And also with my other hat, I told you I'm delivering technical classes. Part of them are for the ACCA, so for the students studying for the ACCA. Now, I don't know if we are going into the right direction or the wrong direction. So I wouldn't actually challenge yet support what Ruxandra was saying earlier, because I've seen actually that there's a huge change. There's been a shift actually from just having a degree because parents would send you to get a degree, or at least this is what happened to me. My personal example is that I wouldn't have dared to tell my mom that studying for a university degree is not what I want, or it was not what I thought I should do, because automatically you would leave high school, and then from high school you go and you study for a bachelor degree, and then we have the story with the master's degree and the PhD nowadays still continuing, and so on. So the shift, as I see it, and especially with the Gen Z, is that they want also something practical. And within the ACCA, we ask them for the practical experience. It has to be proven, it has to be signed off by at least a team leader, ideally another ACCA member or a member of the International Federation of Accountants. Yeah, because we are mostly focused in finance, but what I discovered when I was studying for becoming an ACCA member was that actually we study a bit of everything. So it's not only finance focused or finance based, because it does help you with a bit of knowledge of how to go around people and HR, how to go about taxes, how to go about legislation, and so on. So it has like a bit of everything. So yeah, we have to give them the practical part. In the training that I'm delivering, in the last year, so I've been involved in training for the last 13 years. But I don't feel that I have the necessary experience yet. So I'm still trying to learn every day something new, because everything is changing. And if I want to embrace technology, which I have to do, and we had to do this actually way before the pandemic. The pandemic was what eased our way in Romania, let's say, for the online training delivery, because in other countries it was already happening. And we had the wills, we had the means to do it. So what I have to do, besides embracing technology and learning a new thing every day, I have to show them first now the practical part. So when I would teach them, I don't know, anything related to basic accounting or auditing, because I used to work in the audit profession, first, before moving into training, I would start from an umbrella view. I would, for example, analyze a set of financial statements, where now I'm even moving into an integrated report, because I have to show them, so you are now learning for this, and at some point, if you are going to be involved in finance or ESG, or this will be the end product, the end result of your work. So.
Okay. I'm going to come to you in a moment.
Sorry if I'm talking too much. I know I have this habit.
It's okay. Andrada, I don't want to go too much on this, but you were sort of describing something then, and I'm going to ask Andre to touch on this as well. Is the ability to learn, the access to learning is, when I was your age, it was books, and you could go through the academia to get there. But now, we can Google. I think if somebody arranged for me to be a brain surgeon interview next Tuesday, I think I could get through half of the interview just by going on YouTube and looking at some videos. I think I could talk the talk enough. I wouldn't get the job. Thankfully, I wouldn't get the job, but I think I could do that. And I know you mentioned about young people, and I think the ability to learn and the patience, people's attention span to study is diminishing. We've seen it in the UK. There's a huge drop in people going into, particularly boys. The girls, if I can say boys and girls, the girls are more long-term thinking. They've got a serious problem I think throughout the world, you look at universities, there's much more of a higher percentage of women going into university studies now than the boys. A lot of it's to do with the IT sector, which in the UK is more dominantly male. So they go, well, I don't need to spend the next 4 years, because I know if I'm good at a software developer, I can learn to do it. I can earn lots of money in the next 3 years. I don't have to go through that. So my point for you is when I'm standing in front of you, although I'm not a totally qualified lawyer, but I've studied law and I have a good grasp of law, but I also have a really good attitude to learning and developing. And next to me is somebody who is got all the qualifications. Are we getting to a stage where you may sort of swing towards the attitude, the emotion, the commitment, more than the academic details on the CV? Did that make sense? I think,
yeah. Maybe not in law or medicine or other very structured professions where you actually need a degree.
Yeah, I guess so.
But we are kind of seeing this with a lot of IT clients who are looking for employees who have practical experience rather than a degree from an university.
Okay, so it is.
So yeah, they are actually more interested in what the employee can do and how good prepared he is from a practical perspective, rather than if he has a degree, a higher degree, or a specialty in the IT field. But there are some fields where you can apply this, and some other, like law and medicine and architecture, and some over like that, where you cannot act.
Okay, so next time you go to the doctor, you may want to check and see his qualifications before they start getting the knife out or whatever they're going to do. Okay, Well, but in the technology and photoshopping and everything else, maybe a little double. Maybe have a little test that you have with them. So, Andre, this is a big subject.
I really do think that learning is not poor for boys and good for girls. I really do think that the process is transforming. I think we need to be aware that in some of the countries around the world, or some of the I don't know, castes around the world, structured education has about 300 years of experience and iterative processes and so on and so forth. Bologna process was some sorts of a tryout to organize a bit more condensed curriculum and so on, and it's still ongoing. It's producing results, but I don't think it's because of the process. It's because we learned how to see the different approach. So I'm 20 years ago, I was the last promotion that graduated Politehnica University on the old stuff, 5 year. Yeah, I started the masters. That was retaking some of the courses I already took. I gave up and never took it again because I couldn't see the value in it. What I do think the whole society and each of us learned, though, is to get to know the newer generation, the younger generation, and get to know how to stimulate them and what stimulates them and how do they learn. Because yes, there are differences in the way male and female students are learning and how are they grasping, but the learning system, it's not going down, rather it's transforming. And what we learned over the years is to see the personal values, the personal beliefs, the personal challenges for one person, and if we are smart, to address it, to stimulate a bit, and to see if there is a group cohesion, maybe to move one person near other two persons that are sharing skills and they're sharing the same way of teaching, of learning and teaching, and spread it across the teams, and we adapt. But we are the result of 300 years of structured education and a bit of almost 20 years of, I don't know, change maybe brought by the Bologna process, and the technology is transforming it. Okay. We just need to empower it to improve it, actually.
So I guess in terms of the development, we talked earlier on about what leaders need to do in terms of continuing to develop themselves to be great leaders through a changing world. I guess the same applies to these 300,000 people working in the education system, that the old ways of teaching are not going to work so well anymore, that they have to have much more engagement and empathy and all of these things.
Yeah, they don't need to erase their knowledge, they need to adapt it, and we need to adapt them and to help them adapt it. Okay. It's the same as in a company. You need to know to get a connection with the class. The chemistry, the human side chemistry will always take point over technology. It will always get point within a group. If you get to know your colleague, you're going to have better work reports, you're going to be able to know what he thinks or she thinks and how you could work better together. It's the same in classroom, it's the same in the companies. But related to the example you gave earlier, what about if the teacher was trying to get the student that was driving to pay more attention, to be more aware, to be a little put out of the context that's just driving, trying to input outside stimuli in order to make her a bit more aware that she needs to take care also to be aware in the car, outside the car, and also to the driving, because the driving experience after a certain period just stays there and becomes automatic, you know?
Yeah. I wouldn't be so kind with the guy that I saw, but that could be the case. Yeah, he was definitely switched off and he didn't give a damn whatever was happening. Any questions or points on this? Yeah, we've kind of dug into some really good ideas and thoughts and everything else. Anybody I always regret making asking a closed question. From the teacher perspective, about 5 years ago, Magdalena Platis from the University of Bucharest asked me to do some presentation skills training with the professors. It was probably the toughest presentation skills course I ever did. If anybody's done training and you get that sort of look at you saying, oh, I really don't want to be here, it was probably the toughest thing I did, but good, it was progressive. Okay, let's move on to the second subject, which is another fascinating subject, and that's really about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is very much in the spotlight. I read last year that Romania's population rose, I think I'm correct in saying this, rose for the first time in 20 years, because obviously we're in a world like in England is becoming a nation of old people because people are having less children and living longer because of medicine and everything else, which presents a problem on the economy and on pensions and everything else. And Romania is starting to go the same way. I think the national average of children per couple is dropped quite significantly. So we're in that sort of situation. So Romania's population rose for the first time in 20 years, but not because of Romanians, because of foreign nationals coming into Romania to work. And that's kind of part of diversity is a big, big word. Roxandra, I'm going to start with you on this. How do people the first question is, do people really understand about diversity? We're living in a country as a foreigner in all the 13 years, even through Brexit and all those horrible things in British newspapers and everything else, not once has anybody said anything negative to me about being here. People are genuinely, it's probably one of the greatest countries to come and live as a foreigner, because nobody they say, where are you from? I'm from Britain, and then they say, whereabouts? And they want to know, they're curious. So congratulations, Romania. Thank you for allowing me and welcoming me here. But in terms of diversity, and we'll go into some definitions in terms of race, of gender, education as well. Let's talk about educational diversity. But give us your thoughts on diversity in the workplace and where it needs to go.
From what I see, we have some trouble understanding the struggle of other countries in terms of D&I, and I would say DIB, because it's the last one is belonging. It's the latest term. You don't have it there. No. Sorry.
You just recreated the acronym for it all anyway, so we'll stick with you. We'll stick with you.
So, because I wouldn't say tolerant, we're very inclusive. Our culture is like that. We didn't discriminate, but we still have some, here and there, some areas where we kind of, look down to people.
A little bit of domestic prejudice, can I call it that?
Yeah. But we struggle to understand what other countries are facing, because we're quite homogeneous as population. So we would maybe face some challenges going on. I was just discussing during the break about a lot of people from other countries in Asia, for example, from Nepal, from Philippines, from, I don't know, Cambodia, Vietnam, wherever, are coming to Romania to work here. Maybe they would naturalize here. They will, I don't know if they would get the citizenship, but they would live here for many years, for sure. So we may face some sort of challenge with that, but I didn't see that yet. And about DIB, I would like to say that E in DEIB stands for equity and not equality. Because equity and equality are different, and that's a bit of maybe understanding a bit more DIB. Equity.
Do you want to just touch on that? Do you mind?
Yeah, just
a different.
Just
it's
a
important,
bit. Equity being everyone gets what they need according to their own situation and needs, and equality, everybody gets the same. So it's like a bit the difference between the communism and the socialism. You know, communism, everybody by their needs, and socialism, all equal.
Thank you, thank you.
And that's it, because we don't want to go there.
Roxandra talked about, you talked about there's, you see particularly in the construction industry, in the hospitality industry, we're seeing a lot more people because of the drain of, I think in the UK now, there's 1.3 million Romanians living in the UK, in you know, taking professional jobs in IT predominantly, but I think in the construction business and everything else. And so that is like this shift of everybody shifting around. I wonder if there was one day in every year where everybody went back to their country of origin, what the world would look like. I think Britain would sink. But there is that shift of economics, I think, going around. So is that something that we should look at, maybe challenging going forward, that these people are coming in to take the jobs because people can't find people to work, let's say working in the restaurants in Mamaia. I know they had a big problem there last year, and I think this year in actually getting people to work in the restaurants. Some of them were actually closing down because they couldn't get people to work in it. Is there a danger that we get this social thing happening where those jobs which are you know, good jobs, rewarding, good experience and everything else, that people will reject it because they're seeing this sort of foreign influx of people and saying, okay, well that's for them and not for us. I want some. Am I making sense? Not for us. I'm just worried about this sort of social divide happening, and it then the danger is. And the reason I'm saying this, I'm talking from a British perspective. I saw this in the late 70s. Yes, I'm that old. Early 80s, where you had the jobs in McDonald's, for instance, were being taken by other people, and people say, oh, it's, you know, they're coming here taking our jobs, and then you say, well, do you want to work there? No, I don't want to work there. But so there was it created this. What are you sort of seeing going forward? How are we going to cope with this influx, which I think I've already said that the population is increased already because of foreign nationals coming into Romania, says the foreign national.
So I think, yeah, it's a social discrepancy, and it's kind of encouraged by the law, because when you hire a foreign individual, you actually have to prove that you try to find someone national to work there, and you didn't find it, so you are looking elsewhere. And this kind of creates a discrepancy, meaning that Romanian employees don't want that job, so I have to take a foreigner. And within the company, you will have a difference, because a foreigner is less paid, they come for less conditions, they are happy with what we are giving, especially if we are talking about Asian citizens, because the Romanian conditions are far better here. So.
Okay. Adela, is there, in terms of Romanian culture, is there a risk over the next few years that will be challenged as we continue to accommodate different cultures within an organisation, which I think is already a challenge for a lot of leaders now. You know, I'm stood in Romania with I think about 95% Romanians, and I'm speaking in English, thankfully by the way. So you know that this is a transition, and many organisations now, you know, I'm hearing English as the language people are using in meetings because there's going to be a non-Romanian person in there. How is this going to evolve? How are we going to manage this in the work environment?
I guess it depends on how we want to look at it, because you can think of a threat, or you can actually see the opportunity, as you're mentioning with the jobs in McDonald's back in the times in the UK. Well, if there are jobs that no Romanians want, then we just have to adapt ourselves. And just to give you an example from something which recently happened to me, I was out for lunch with my kids during the weekend, and we went to a Vietnamese restaurant. And my son, who is quite inclusive in general, it's because of his school, the young age and so on, younger generation, he was just a bit astonished because he wouldn't understand in the first place why the personnel there, they tried to talk to us in Romanian and not in English. And he was like, is it because they see that I'm quite young? And I told him, no, I think it's because they actually managed to learn some Romanian. And we stopped one of them because he was very curious, you know, as you were mentioning, with us being very welcoming as a nation and so on. We asked questions. And he was like, can I actually talk to one of them? Of course, he chose a very pretty one. And he started asking, how long have you been in Romania? And he switched to English directly. And she was like, she adapted as well with her speech, and she replied back in English. And she was actually in Romania for not more than half a year. And she had already managed to speak some decent Romanian. So if we see the opportunity, then I think it's just for us to benefit out of this.
Okay. Thank you for embarrassing me as well.
No, it wasn't meant to be like that, because back in the days, I told you I used to work in the audit profession, and we were doing like all the audit documentation in English, because most of the partners at that time, they were expats, they were not speaking Romanian, and everything had to go, you know, to the higher level in the end to non-native Romanian speakers. And we realized at some point, because we had some of them, they really wanted to learn Romanian. They were eager because they were here to stay, and they wanted to. And we realized that it was our fault as well, because we would never actually try to teach them some Romanian. So it's not, most of it is our fault if you don't speak Romanian by this time. It's not yours.
I do blame you, because thank you, because when I do try with my pathetic, it's not bad. People kind of look at me weird because I pronounce things weirdly, and they reply in English anyway. That's one of the wonderful things about living in Romania. I've said this before, actually. The British do speak. It's not we're not lazy, what you think we are with languages. We do speak many languages. We just go on holiday to Spain and shout English at people. That's our way of speaking Spanish. Do you have a beer? And we get the beer and we go back to our friends and say, yeah, I can speak Spanish. There you go, amigo.
I had the same, quite a similar experience in Greece and Cyprus, because I managed to learn a bit of Greek. Yeah. And I was trying to practice what I had learned. Okay, first year I just learned the alphabet, and then I tried to learn a few words, and I was trying to speak, and everybody was actually helping me in English. Yeah. And then I said, okay, so I did my best, I tried, and I just left it there. I mean,
that's the way. That's for me. Georgiana, let's move off that kind of diversity. I want to move on to generational diversity, because we spoke in the panel at the beginning about leadership, and it was kind of touched on there in terms of, we talked about in certain industries there's a very sort of dominant younger average of people there, but we're seeing I think I got my Y and X and Zs mixed up earlier on, but we're seeing the new generation coming through, which is still a small percentage. But then we've got the baby boomers like me, and then sort of between that we've got people who maybe inherited some of the baby boomer attributes in terms of tradition and loyalty and those sort of things, and then we've got so we've got sort of 4 generations in the workplace. How, in terms of your experiences, how is that evolving? We've touched on the Z. I think we talk about the Z. Have you got anybody Z generation? We talk about that as if it's like, oh my God, the Z generation, they're coming. We're all going to die. You know, it's a big challenge for us. But how is that going to transpose in the workplace over the next few years, and what do we need to be aware of? What a nice, tough question for you. She asked me before, she said, please, Colin, ask me really difficult questions.
Especially questions that I don't have a real background into, you know.
That's why I asked you. It makes it even more difficult.
I'm trying to think. I'm going at where we have experience, like when we go into a company and we talk about well-being, we try to understand the specificity of each company and to understand what would make a well-being project interesting for different generations, and if the differences are so big or they are not so big. It's obvious, like you were saying before, that you would see more openness to talking to a psychologist for the new generation than for baby boomers.
What are you trying to say? I guess the needs are different. Yes, if you're coming in and you're talking to me and I've got somebody young with me, my needs in terms of well-being, or my definition, is to stay alive. Whereas a younger person may be, well, you know, I'm 26 years old, I'm fit and healthy. It doesn't mean that much, but I'd rather have that benefit instead of the well-being.
Yeah, but this is a place where usually companies, they take a role, because if you talk about the physical health, yes, okay, when you're 26, you don't think about prevention. I'm healthy, I'm young, but that's a moment when to do prevention. That's a moment to learn about prevention and why it is important to take care of your health. So yes, I believe that probably the speech needs to be different, but in reality we need the same things. We need to have the basics. We need to learn what good physical health means, what good mental health means, what are good habits. We need to have probably a different solution for moments of crisis depending on the generation, and that's a one-to-one solution. And as Ruxandra was saying earlier, of course a psychologist will know how to adapt when talking to a 26-year-old or talking to a 45 years old with completely different problems, but the theory more or less is the same. So talking, for example, about learning and about how things changed, because this is also a challenge when talking about well-being program, because first you need to learn some basics. You can't, just put things on top without thinking of the basics. And there have been so many workshops and webinars available over time that people don't have the patience to watch and to listen to somebody speaking. And what we learn, for example, now is that podcasts or interviews with specialists with different backgrounds, eventually with somebody from within the company asking the questions, is the thing that keeps people involved, engaged, and eventually getting questions before, and those specialists answering to the questions of the people. So I think there are differences that you need to be aware, and you need to be to understand where is the company, because it's one thing if you are talking about a company that it's on a industry that is
glanced at you there, but for everybody. But we're just going on this because it's quite a serious subject, because I know in terms of, you mentioned like the 26-year-old, what do I need to worry about? But that, as you said, that's the key time when they get to 40 or 50 and they've got a problem. It can be traced back to, if they'd done this when they were younger, it would have prevented it. I know through this, for myself, I call it an MOT, like when you have your car done every year, and I have mine every year, and I go through it. But I have to actually ask the consultant to lie for me, to say that I need it because I've got these symptoms, and thankfully, touch wood or something, I wasn't having the symptoms. But the only way I could get a checkup under the insurance was to actually, for her to say, I'm having breathing problems or something. Then I get the full works. Is that something? I'm not talking about Regina Maria here. I'm talking about generally in the medical thing. Is that ability for people to proactively take care of themselves? Is that something that's really missing there? That we should be encouraging young people to have that checkup and may even force it as part of their insurance cover.
Yeah, so I think in Romania, it's a market where you'd find much more subscription products rather than insurance products. It's over 70% of the market, it's a subscription market, and this is a main difference between the subscription product and the insurance product. The subscription product, what we are trying to do, us and the other providers in the market, is to do education on prevention. We usually go to the doctor when we have a problem. If you have a subscription product, nobody will ask you, why are you going to do those tests or those consultations that you have in your subscription program? Nobody asks. You just call in a call center and you say, I want to do that. But in order to do that, you need to have the mindset that you need to do prevention.
That's my question, is how, well, could we just ask the audience maybe? Do you mind if I ask you this question, is how many people over the last 12 months have had a what's the Romanian version for an MOT when you go into yeah, so how many people have actually had a medical check? Nothing wrong with them, but they've had a proactive medical check over the last 12 months. Okay, so I'm glad.
Also, legislation helps in Romania because you have to undergo an annual medical check.
Sorry,
any employee has to undergo an annual medical check.
Is that the reality?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
The legislation, but
only. Maybe there were some reluctant hands, but there was only 5% of the room with the hand in there.
Yeah, but probably we didn't understand properly, because all of us, if we are working for a Romanian employer, we had to see a doctor in the past 12 months to do this is legally, you need to pass the medical exam in order to say, okay, you are fit to work.
Okay.
So this is something, probably we thought of something a little bit more than just that basic checkup.
Okay.
But for example, because you are talking about prevention, I will talk just a little bit about one of our programs that is the dearest to us, and some of the employees in the room know about it. It's the cancer prevention screening. Romania, it's one of the only countries, or was one of the only countries in Europe that has no cancer prevention national programs, because most countries, they have national programs. And in this situation, many employees in Romania decided that they will take on this role, and together with them, we created cancer screening programs. I think we have over 25,000 cancer screenings done, when you would go to the doctor and you would do a screening without having any issue. You just know that in your family somebody had a problem, and you go, and unfortunately in each of the companies that we are going, we are discovering situations where one employee without any symptom has to do more checkups. And one of the saddest or happiest moments was when one employee of a company in Romania, a retailer, asked us if she could pass her echo to her daughter. She had never done an echo in her life, but that's the reality of Romania.
Okay. Do you want to say something?
I was just going to say it's for free. So all those checks are offered for free by many big medical clinics in Romania.
We just need to
that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I want to come on to this, the other part, with diversity and inclusion. It's a big subject, and we could talk for hours on it. But I want to touch on what I call cognitive diversity. And the reason I ask it, quite a lot of the projects that I do when I go into companies doing an audit on what they're doing and everything else, I find these pockets of groups of very similar people. And what I discovered was that from a recruitment process, it was this likability factor. So you're interviewing Colin, although Colin's qualification's not quite there, you kind of like, I'm looking at you, Roxandra, pretending you're interviewing me. So I'd like to employ Colin because I like him. And the reason for that liking is because we're similar in a way. There is that sort of unconscious bias that we have towards that. So I want to come on to this sort of cognitive diversity, and Andre, on how crucial it is for organisations. And it was mentioned this morning with some of the business leaders about engagement and getting people to be contributing to the strategy of the business and all this. But if you've got a group of people, let's say they're all what we call socialisers in a room, you know what it's like. It's just mayhem. Nothing gets decided. It's just laughing and joking and lots of creativity going on, but no sort of structure to it. So how important it is from an educational perspective and working with companies to make sure that we're not just putting in people of the same knowledge, same maybe somebody in the accounting industry. You know, if a room full of accountants would make us come up with a joke or something, or a little thing about what that would look like. But do we need the diversity in there, basically?
Well, some of us call it chemistry or group chemistry, the way we interact, the way we answer to each other's needs or thoughts or patterns.
Which is the opposite of diversity, I guess. Yeah.
It's not the opposite, it's complementary from my point of view. But you do need it. And also it depends. It depends on the work you're having ahead for that employee or for the group dynamic. It's one thing just to have a team that has to maintain something. Either it's a platform, either it's something with well-established workflows and so on and so forth. You have one type of people there. You have much more complexity when you need to create workflows and you need to develop, and you have to have in mind people with different skills and not necessarily well aligned. But if you are trying to create, you need to have all sorts of maybe creative, maybe frowned people that really know their tech, but they don't need to, or they don't have the social skills for the entire group. So it also depends on what you're employing them for, or what you need them in the group for.
Okay.
It's a really important, but diversity and inclusion, it's not biased from my point of view. It's really important from the middle management perspective to pay attention on the team needs, on the company needs, and just structure it as such. If you understand what are you employing or work with that group, you need to act accordingly.
Okay.
That's in education, that's in a company, that's in social, countryside skills. It's all the same. Each has a role. You as a middle manager or as a top manager, you need to know every piece in order to every personality, not piece, sorry. I like puzzles sometimes. My wife does like them a lot. And you need to understand their value to your team in order to be a team, not just work.
Okay. Androla, I'm going to come to you on this. So I think you described if you had a project team, a brainstorm. So we have a brainstorm at Nura, and we have 4 of us, and we're all lawyers, but in one particular area. The ability to have a created outcome of that, is that going to be changed if one of them is from a different domain or different? I think you were touching on different types of people. So you have the socializers, you have the people who direct, who handle problems well. You've got the thinking one who does all the analytical, boring stuff that the socializer sees, and then you have the one that creates the harmony in the group. I guess take an example of 4.
Which are always calm.
And each one of them is equally important.
Yes, I think that each individual has its own perspective, has its own values, has its own way of solving the problem. So more perspective equal a better result to a problem we have, or to find a better solution.
And they touched on it this morning, I think, is sometimes the most ridiculous idea that comes out of a brainstorming session is either a great idea when people think about it, or it stimulates an idea from that apparently stupid suggestion at the end of the meeting. Say, oh, thank you, Andrada. Without your crazy comment, we wouldn't have got where we did. You're nodding your head furiously there.
No,
I just want to nod your head.
It's not furiously. No, I was thinking now when you said when you gave the example with the ridiculous idea or whatever. Whenever I start a new class with a new group of students, I would always tell them, and I insist on that. There's no such thing as a stupid comment or question. I'm going to turn around it and do something good for the team, for the whole class. Because they would have strange ideas sometimes, and the connections in their brains, they happen in a strange way. But then if I manage to get that part and turn it around so that it's a benefit, it's an opportunity for everybody, that's excellent. Okay, half of them I don't get them to ask questions or to make comments for, let's say, half of the sessions together. And then I would pick up on them and I would tell them, I understand that you have a different learning pattern. I understand that you may be you may be structured differently, and you may be a bit, I don't know, shy, introvert, whatever. But at some point, I would need you to make a comment on that or answer to one of my questions, because otherwise I don't even know, I don't know if you're mentally there in class, or, if you're just, I just see you, or in the online, it's even worse. Yeah, if I just see a name, I don't know if they never make a comment. And I wanted to make a point on this as well. Even if you have similar similar knowledge pool, you would always have a different learning pattern. And you would have to be flexible, and you would have to recognize, as Andrea was mentioning, the different roles within the team, and make the most of what could come up.
Okay, Georgiana, we're way back to this generational thing again, aren't we? I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and there was a young man. I don't know what his age is, but he was fairly young. And we're in the middle of this meeting with 13 people, and he had his laptop, and he was tapping away on his laptop. And I was trying to make when you're trying to make eye contact with somebody and they don't see it, it kind of people think you've actually got something wrong with you in the end. And after the meeting, I actually said to him, you realise that that people in the room were thinking you were tapping away on your emails or something. And he looked at me like I was an idiot and said I was taking notes in the meeting. So this was the baby boomer versus a young generation thing going on. Then I said to him, yes, but I know there was some people in there may have been thinking that. And he started to realise this. So it came to this Monday. I attend their sales meetings every Monday. And I said, I left it to him to how he would deal with it. So he could either do nothing and say, well, I did nothing wrong and I'm going to continue with it, or do something. And I came into Monday's meeting and I walked in and 4 people had their laptops, because what Trajan had done had actually gone around and told other people, including the boss, that he uses his laptop to take notes because, and not just because he wants to, because it's better for him. He can transfer stuff into his CRM, etc., etc., etc. So it's quite interesting how that sort of generational thing, so we're not just accommodating different points of view. I'm going to think of a question for you. We're not just accommodating points of view, we're actually nurturing and using that to our advantage, which I think is what diversity in the workplace is all about. You can just say, yes, I agree, Colin, or you could say something. Okay, she saved you.
There's a reason why I have a tablet with me, because I felt you picked up on me on this one with the laptop. I had a No, I'm joking. It was a joke.
I have used on their phone as I walk around. Yeah, we got one over there. Even like the boss is there. Look, she has no idea that I'm talking.
No, the reason, and I will keep it short. The reason I have a tablet with me was because I wanted to tell you just a bit about a study that the ACCA did in 2023. We are doing it faster. Yeah, we are doing it like almost every year in the last years. And it's about global talent trends. And there are very interesting points which come up out of this. This year it was run with more than 8,000 respondents from 148 countries in the world. And one of the points which seemed, actually there are 2 points that I want to tell you about. You can find all the study, maybe we can also send it by email in the follow-up, the conclusions. One point which relates to what we are discussing now was that inclusivity measures score well, but social mobility lags. and this is worldwide, so it's not only Romania's perspective and how we are welcoming everybody. And another point was that technology is empowering, but there are still concerns because most of the respondents don't actually feel that they get enough training in how they would have to use the technology to their advantage. Okay? And now I can actually get rid of the tablet. Okay?
Until you said it, I didn't even notice it was there. But maybe if you could share that with the team, and we can share that with everybody. We've run out of time, so Georgiana, you don't have to say a word. We've run out of time. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish we could have had more time. There's lots more to cover, and I'm sure we'll get into this subject again. But for the meantime, please, everybody, and I'm sorry I'm putting my back to a lot of people. I'm trying to move around a little bit, so I'll stand here and say thank you very much for our panel. Please give them a round of applause. And the boss is standing and walking towards me. And Mirella, did you want to finish off as we go for some networking and a break? Was there something you would like to say?
Yes. Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you. I want just to mention, stay tuned for the next year. Will be an anniversary event, People Empowering Business Forum. So we'll have a special project for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we feeding everybody? There's food, or just yeah?
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
The world is changing faster than ever. As consumers become more and more digitally connected, their demands are changing just as quickly. At TP, we help clients rewire their organizations with a new, more integrated operating model using analytics, technology, automation, and artificial intelligence, but always complemented by human empathy. Omnichannel solutions enrich the customer journey by keeping them closely connected to their favorite brands, new habits, new expectations, and new preferences, powered by the perfect blend of people, process, and technology, all delivered seamlessly.
Giving is for me a great opportunity to feel whole and complete, and building feels like I'm the co-creator of my own reality and helps everyone.
Giving means putting pieces of ourselves in everything that we're doing and ensuring that somebody else gets a chance at what we're having today.
Giving is the opportunity to see in the future, to see the people that we're working with today, forwarding it to the people in need of the future.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be?